hear me? Hey y'all, I am your mistress of the dark for just tonight. Tomorrow I'll be Latanya, back to my normal self. I want to welcome everybody to the first ever Arkansas Podcast Collaborative live Halloween recording. So we are so excited that you guys are here. Y'all look really, really good. I like it. I love the costumes. First of all, I want to say thank you to Ron Robinson for allowing us to use this space. We really appreciate it. Thank you to the set crew. It looks really, really good up here. I like it. We all like it a lot. We have an amazing night planned for you guys. Trick-or-treating in the lobby, so make sure that you go out there and get you some candy, get you some popcorn, get you something to drink. In the building, we have filmmakers, authors, podcasters, yay, we're the podcasters, who are going to put on a live show. So to get everyone warmed up, I have a little bit of Halloween trivia. So I'm gonna give the question and then just throw your hand up to answer. So the first one, where did Halloween originate? Am I doing nice? Hey, how are you? You know where it originated? Where? You can't talk. Oh no. Does anyone who is verbal? No? Okay, so Halloween originated from the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. Second question, what vegetable was originally used to carve jack-o'-lanterns?
Turnips.
Yes, how did you know that?
I'm a teacher.
I would have said squash or something else. Okay, so you're right. Before pumpkins, turnips were carved to make jack-o'-lanterns. And our final question, what is the most popular candy sold on Halloween?
Reese's.
It is. How did you know?
I don't know, but I like it.
That is, I would have said M&M's. I like M&M's. You're right. So Reese's peanut butter cups often top the list as the most popular Halloween candy. So, with that being said, welcome again. I want to present our host for the night, Ty King.
Thank you guys. This is a small room, right? A small room of people, but I have been always wanting to do a show like this, and so in podcasting, we got into that, sort of presented an opportunity for me to do this, and so when kids were bringing their candy back into their houses and going through like how many Snickers we got and all this stuff, I was standing on top of my coffee table in my room and performing. So this is a lot like that because there was no audience, right? So a lot of RSVPs, sadly, they didn't fill the house today, but hopefully people are on the internet and they'll be able to see this later. So we're gonna still have fun here, and just like it's a room full of people, right? So we're gonna have fun with the ones that are here. So thank you so much for being here. Yeah, absolutely. So as Latanya talked about, just a little bit about us, we are the ARKAST Podcast Collaborative. We're a nonprofit organization that helps podcasters, providing free resources across the podcasters across the country, not just Arkansas, but we hope to focus on providing more resources and availability of podcasters here to be used in the bigger podcasting projects across the country. So we do a lot of free events and workshops and things like this that you're at currently. So if you would like to keep up with those types of events, you can go to arkansaspodcasters.org. Honestly, like this is it for me. This is the peak night for me, even though we don't have a huge audience. Like this is it. So normally, the YouTuber or podcaster thing is like, follow me for more, but like it's all downhill from here. So no sense in doing that. But please do it anyway. Yeah. Before we get started tonight, we have some amazing guests tonight, and I'm really excited about the people that we were able to collect and sort of pour on stage tonight to be able to get more information and to have some Halloween fun with. It's podcasting is so unique in that way, and that it allows me to have such a strange operating, functional, somehow occupation where I get to just pull the coolest people in the world that are making the coolest things and be like, hey, can we talk? And just have fun with them. So I'm really grateful for the ones that are here for that. Before we get started, I wanted to kick things off with a little game. And so I've got a werewolf that's kind of behind these curtains over here that wants to try to guess what's in the box. Little werewolf, will you come out behind the stage, please? Shy. She wanted to do this, and she's so shy. So shy. All right. Of course, a werewolf that's playing guess what's in the box cannot be able to see what's in the box. You have to only reach inside the box, try to guess with your werewolf perception, what is it that you're touching, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so that means you have to have that blindfold on. We've got it right in front of you. Yes. What big eyes do you have, by the way? Go ahead and cover those up.
It's hard to do it over my ears.
It is hard to do with the ears. Do you need help? Stretch the elastic. Okay. There it is. Okay.
Okay.
Now you're set. Okay, and I've been told, because I had very, very little to do with the planning of this, I've been told that what you're going to be feeling inside the box and trying to guess what it is are actually, you're going to be guessing what part of a witch are you feeling? What part of a witch is it that your hand is on?
Actually, no, it's the other way.
What
We have
part?
been hunting witches.
Yes.
And we found one, but she
Okay.
is dead, and we've taken her body part.
Oh my gosh, this has gotten dark. Okay, right off the bat, I love
It
this.
has-
So, you were traveling a road, is that right?
Yes.
This demon lady that's standing over to the side of the stage? Okay.
Yes,
Good.
and
So
I-
you were traveling a road. You found a witch, and now you've gathered these parts in a bucket, and now Sylvia's going to guess what they are?
That's exactly right. And they are all, she's going to guess which common household food it is.
What? So witches actually turn into, that's the bigger news here. Like we're missing the lead here.
After they die.
Yeah, so after a witch dies, it turns into food?
Something like that.
Something
yes.
like that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
never knew it.
Okay.
That's what we're here for. is to learn.
Blindfolded, Miss Sylvie? You're
Yes.
good? Okay.
I can't see anything.
You can't see anything. Good. Confirmed? How many fingers am I holding up?
3.
You were right.
What?
All right. First step, reaching the hand.
So what we have in the box
Yes.
now is a witch's tongue.
Okay, this is the witch's tongue. Oh, so she's
Okay.
not guessing what part it is. Just what is the witch's tongue turned into?
Yes.
Okay.
One hand only, please.
Just holding the box.
Wait.
Tension's building.
Do you feel the witch's tongue?
Yes, but I don't know what
How does it
is.
feel? If I can get this off the stand. Here we go. What does it feel like?
I don't know.
Does it have a texture? Does it have a feel? Is it hot, cold?
It's very slimy and wet.
That sounds like a tongue.
Yeah. But I don't know what it is.
You've never touched one of these before in your life.
I don't know.
Something you've eaten before.
I don't know what it is.
I'm ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a banana, lady.
Oh.
All right. That is
All
our
right.
witch's tongue.
Next up, witch's tongue. What's next?
Yep.
What kind of witch's
Stay
tongue?
blindfolded. We also found her heart.
Her heart. The witch's heart is in the box. What food has it turned into? It's okay. You don't have to be afraid to do it.
That's.
Oh my gosh. Listen, we're in the theater, but the show just got started. I know. Still, throw in tomatoes already. That's a, I mean, sure. Did you feel the splat when it shattered near your feet?
It's a tomato.
It is a tomato. How did you ever guess?
Because you said it.
Thank you. All right, last one. What we got?
All right. Now, of course,
Yes.
we also got her brain.
This is the witch's brain. What has the witch's brain turned into?
Oh, and it's very dry. Is it like cauliflower?
That's exactly right.
Yay!
All right, good job. Give it up for Sylvie.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I feel like oh, nice. We have more seats that are filled since I last looked up. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, so does anybody, I know she asked, like some of you guys are podcasters, a lot of you know what a podcast is. Anybody here listen to podcasts? Or know what to expect? Okay, great. So basically, if you don't know what a podcast is, basically tonight what we're doing is a live talk show. I'm your host, Ty King, on behalf of the Arkansas Podcast Collaborative. But, what's up? I'm hearing voices, I'm sorry. That was my co-host in my head. So tonight we will be bringing out some really great guests. We're going to be talking to them and giving some, we're going to have some fun with them, some Halloween fun. Also, we brought candy and tarot readers. Tonight you're going to hear from independent horror film directors, very prolific horror authors, and other podcasters. Doesn't that sound exciting? That sounds exciting. And before we get started, what I wanted to do to sort of kick everything off besides that game and throwing tomatoes at me already because it just started, I'm going to have Ashley Lynn come out and we're going to do a tarot reading for me live here on stage just for fun. Everybody give it up for Ashley Lynn. Awesome. Yes, you can take the chair.
Hello.
Hey, so you're gonna have to direct me on this because I've never had this done. I don't know what I'm getting into. And you said that it can go sideways kind of quick.
It can.
Okay. Yes.
I won't do that to you.
Okay.
Okay, so I have two decks here.
Yes.
Do a specific topic you want to explore today.
Let's talk. What are my options?
Anything. Any life
Anything.
topic. Any life topic.
Am I gonna grow my hair back?
No,
anytime
we're
soon?
not gonna ask
Does it come back?
that. No, it doesn't.
Gosh. Okay. What's interesting? What should I ask about? Love life, romance. Should we do that one? Yeah. Okay.
I have a deck I knew you were going to do that. I have a deck specific to.
Oh, that's it. So that's a large deck that you got specifically for that.
Specific to.
Yeah. Why are there so many more cards in that pile?
You know, it just, each deck varies. So tarot is a little different. This is an oracle deck. So there's two different types of decks.
Okay.
Do you want to explain the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, low-key.
Like you're explaining it to a 10-year-old though.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so tarot is like an art that's been here for hundreds of years and it's all the same. So
Yeah.
like each tarot deck has the same meanings basically.
Gotcha.
Oracle is topical. So this is a deck, there's so many different oracle decks. There's decks on relationships, career, money, you know, you think of a topic, dogs, like
Yeah.
it just goes on and on.
Okay.
So we're gonna pull some cards. I'm going to see what comes out, and if there's a specific question that comes up that you want to ask, feel free.
Okay.
And basically, I'm just gonna look and see what. Sometimes cards will fly out like that.
Flat card deck. Okay.
So this one is the fantasy card. So it's about fantasizing, daydreaming, imagining. So I don't know.
Is that the one for me? That's why it's flying out of the deck right now?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
This one is a little bit of confusion, so I don't know if there's
I
any
am confused. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Most of the
so
time.
a little bit of confusion about maybe what you want out of a relationship. Let's see what else comes out. And it could be, you know, so we're reading, this is negative minds. I don't know if you've had like a negative mindset regarding relationships or not.
I mean, who hasn't?
A little bit. Maybe a little bit about family.
Okay.
You know? So let's see what else comes out. And remember, this reads current energy as it stands today. You have free will. The chemistry card. So obviously there is a desire for passion. I don't know if you're looking at a specific person or talking to someone specific or in a new relationship of sorts, but
So are there people that aren't looking for passion? They want a normal, boring,
some
like,
people, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
there
nice.
are actually.
Okay, great.
Let's see. This one talks about feeling a little stuck, a little trapped. What that has for you. Actually, pull this one out. See.
Was there a limit to how many cards? Or
No,
you
I
go through-
just,
or
I
you
just
go through the whole
go.
thing?
No, I just go until I feel like I need to stop.
Okay, okay.
So the Ten of Wands is about feeling some extra responsibility, some burden, a little bit. So your world of completion. So this one's about the completion of a cycle. So I don't know if there's been a completion in a relationship recently or not, but that is definitely.
Like when it's ended and then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So.
I like that you're reading me my relationship while Michael Myers is standing over your shoulder staring at me.
I know. It's a little awkward. It's okay. So this one talks about a working parent providing financially. So I don't know if that's been something like a theme that you've had happen. You're giving me nothing to go off of. You're just
Oh,
like,
that's
okay.
pretty funny. I'm sorry. I thought this is like, you get what you get. Here are your cards.
No,
Let me tell you what
mine
you-
are very conversational. I like to like.
No, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So am I on the right track?
You're on the right track.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Woo. I was like, he's
Yeah.
giving me nothing.
No, it's good. I thought it was just the first time.
Oh,
It's just-
stressful.
Yes.
Man, okay, so the Five of Cups reversed talks about moving on.
Okay.
So when you mentioned a completion of a
Yeah.
relationship, how's that happen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is about acceptance, some self-forgiveness.
Okay.
So they might be calling you out a little bit about feeling that, a little
Alright.
bit of personal setback.
Yeah.
So the Empress reverse talks about, again, we have indecision cards. I don't know if there's been some decisions that you needed to make or that have been weighing on you. It's definitely addressing that. The Four of Wands reversed talks about a breakdown of communications and home conflict. So again, I don't know if you've had recently, like, it seems like there's some stuff going on, and I don't know how deep you want me. So, I told
Probably
you.
on stage in front of everyone.
I know,
Yeah.
I told you. I was like, it can get
It can get personal, you're
it can
right,
get a little
you're right,
personal.
you're right.
You were like, I don't know how I'm gonna leave, but
Yeah.
it was all right.
See you, Michael.
Okay, so let's find out. Again, we have the negative mind coming out. So there seems to be, with relationships, a little bit of a negative, like, experience happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Judgment card, this is about forgiveness. So again, I think the overall message for you tonight is self-forgiveness and really allowing yourself to move on from what has happened and embracing that side of yourself. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I didn't expect this was going to happen, but like it does, yeah, it makes complete sense, and I do appreciate you saying that.
Of course.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going to come out today, but
Okay, awesome.
yeah, sorry.
Well, that's a good, no, I'm just sorry. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Ashley Lynn is incredible. Yeah, give her a hand. Give her a hand. That was good. So it's not going to just be me up here tonight, of course. I am going to bring out my co-host. He's the host of Cryptids Across the Atlas. He loves to search for Bigfoots and different lights and those types of things all across the state and country. He just got back from a different expedition across the country to find some different cryptids. Cody Johnston, will you come out? Are you okay? Did you find your way there? Okay.
Where am I sitting?
I'm moving over here because I want to do it for staff. You can sit right here.
All right. Hello, everyone.
So he has a glowing, is that magical glowing light that's above your head? That wasn't.
Ah, sure.
Are you a hiker or a wizard?
Both. I'm a hiking wizard. I'm a traveling wizard.
Makes sense. I
Yes.
think Lord of the Rings.
Yes, so Radagast vibes, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I talk to animals when I'm around here. That's why it took me so long to come out. Found a werewolf to talk to, actually.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Puppy, werewolf, wolf, pup. I'm not really sure what to call the werewolves when they're that young.
You know, we go by many names. So,
They don't have many names. That could be true for absolutely anything. All right, well, glad to have you out here. Thank you so much for having joined us and building this amazing set for us today to go camping.
Yes. Getting the
By the way, if our crazy-looking pumpkin skeleton man back here falls and crushes anybody, it'll just be me. So that's why I'm sitting here. He's missing half a hip. He's okay. He's had surgery.
He did have surgery right before this.
We feel like he's going to make a strong recovery.
He was supposed to be 12 foot. He's running at a solid 9.5 right now. But you know what? It worked out.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to call our first guest of tonight. He is an amazing, had the amazing opportunity to work with him and to see his work and to watch as he has grown in his own career in directing movies, but also bringing his own flavor to independent horror films. We're going to bring out Jason Pitts. I think it's Jason anyway. That's the thing about like having a Halloween show and bringing everybody out that's in costume. It's like, I think this is, could honestly just be anybody who walked in off the street wearing a mask.
But Jason's a fitting name for Halloween.
It is. He's got a Voorhees shirt on, so I'm guessing he goes.
Oh, it is him.
It is him. Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason, for being here.
And thank you, Ty. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure. How's it going?
It's going great.
Okay, good. Are you excited about spooky season?
Yes.
Okay.
Spooky season is the best season.
Okay, great. How does you feel about that? Even though you've been directing, independent horror films, so you do that year round. It's not just a one time a year type of thing. So I wonder, like, for people that actually make a career out of that, they do it 365 days a year. How do they feel about it? It's Halloween time when the stores, when normal stores like Marshalls start hanging their zombie displays outside their windows, and it's like, it's that time again.
Yeah, it's just like you feel normal. Like
Yeah.
it's like one time of the year that you feel normal, where everyone else is doing the same thing you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like the mask you were wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So are you around, I don't know, you're used to seeing strange things all the time on your sets of your movies. Are there any, I don't know, I'm always curious, like what, outside of filming, the intentional spooky stuff, do you ever like experience any other kind of weird stuff that goes on?
You know, I haven't personally, but I have a lot of people that I trust that have like no reason to lie that they've experienced stuff. So I'm kind of like, I'm more inclined to believe than not, just because I trust the people who have told me stories. But no, I haven't personally experienced anything.
Do you feel like they're compelled to like come and talk to you or your family?
Yes.
Come in your stories, like you're somebody who sharing my story.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does any of that bleed over into your work?
Absolutely, yeah. I take ideas that people tell me all the time and just kind of like mess with them and expand on them and stuff like that. My mom swears up and down that I haunted her before I was born.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks. They're like, she says that she used to see a baby ghost crawl down the hall, and then while she was pregnant, and then when I was born, I was like spitting image of that ghost that crawling down the same hall.
Jeez.
Pretty creepy.
Before you were a baby, you were a
Right.
baby ghost.
Yeah,
This is like a destiny right there.
you were born for this.
Did it look anything like the baby from Beetlejuice?
Oh gosh, we had to go there.
I'm curious, like, what did you look like? You said it matched?
I don't know. I mean, it's just like a regular baby that's kind of transparent.
Okay.
Yeah, but just like me when I was a kid, like a baby.
Awesome. Very cool.
Odd.
So your movies, you're wearing a shirt that
Yes.
actually advertises one of your movies.
Not the Beast.
The Beast, awesome. So what kind of movies, for people who haven't seen your movies, like what kind of movies do you direct and what are they about?
I really like horror films. Grew up in the 80s on Jason and Michael and Freddy. And so the types of movies that I make are very reminiscent of those. I really like psychological horror. I do also like slashers. So just pretty much anything, like my next film is going to be like a supernatural, like an exorcist type movie. So got some demon possession going on, all that stuff.
Any monster flicks?
Monster flicks?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell me about this. I'm sorry, that's my next one. So tell me about your monster flicks.
So this, we did a Friday the 13th fan film where we took Jason Voorhees and put him against Bigfoot. So it's Jason versus Bigfoot. We put it up on YouTube about a year and a half ago, and it has almost 700,000 views.
Wow. Very awesome.
It took off, so very, very happy with that. It's a lot of fun, a lot of fun, very fun movie, and we had a blast doing it. We shot it in Louisa, Kentucky, over 7 days, and it's one of the coolest experiences of my life is growing up as a fan of Jason, having other fans come to me and say, man, your film is canon in my opinion, as one of the best Jason kills that they've seen. That's really cool.
Yeah. Over like the actual
Yeah.
Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Kind of forward. Go ahead.
Yeah, please.
So I want to hear about, and if I'm taking you off
No,
topic,
please.
so I want to hear about the process of filming horror. I want to understand like from budgeting to like getting the cast together, like, because what is the process like? Is it harder or easier, or like what are the challenges to that, and what are some of the things that like the way you have to approach filming horror versus say someone would do a different type of genre? What are some of those challenges?
You have to so performance is key.
Yeah.
There's several different types of like directors. I consider myself more of like an actor's director. Like I pay much more attention to the performances of the actors.
Yes.
And for horror, like that really has to be on point. Like when they are scared, like the audience has to believe that they are really scared.
Yeah.
So I spend most of my energy focused on that. And I surround myself with very, very talented people on my crew that have much more technical knowledge and experience than I do. And so they take care of a lot of the other stuff. And I'm able to just like more focus on the performances of the actors. And I think that really enhances horror films more than like a drama. Dramas is like the performances are important in every genre, but I think really horror is. And like I'm also a big story guy.
Yeah.
I really think that the story has to make sense and flow really well, and that's what I focus on.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like a lot of horror for a long time leaned on jump scares, and the stories kind of just went to the wayside. That's all we're hearing.
Yeah. So how did you get into directing or working in film, period?
I originally wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to write screenplays. Growing up on the 80s and just loving what I was seeing on the films, from the horror films, I thought, horror is like the most creative genre, and you can do anything you want with it. Like you can throw in some comedy, you can throw in some romance. The closest thing to it is probably sci-fi, but I kind of consider sci-fi like an offshoot of horror. So I knew I wanted to tell stories that I could have a great creative control over. And I felt like horror was the most creative genre. So that's what really struck with me. And so I wrote screenplays and nobody cared. Nobody bought them, I was like, oh, I'm gonna write screenplays and people are gonna make my movies. That doesn't happen, or it didn't happen to me. So I got to the point where I was just like, I'm gonna have to make my own films. So I started making my own. And then 2 or 3 in, I'm like, you know what, I really love directing. I love it more than writing, actually. So I kind of am making a transition more from being a writer-director to a director-idea person and working with other screenwriters.
Awesome. Have you seen any other scary movies this year that you didn't direct, that you didn't work on directing?
Oh man, I've seen a lot of scary movies.
Okay, so you're frequent flyer of the
Yeah.
theater. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Did you watch Long Legs?
Yes, I did.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Checking like on the scale, like how many did you see?
I'm of the minority that I think Long Legs was overhyped. I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good, but I just thought it was a little overhyped.
Okay, so in that vein, let's play a game here. What is your least favorite horror film of all time?
Of all time, least favorite. Jeez.
Off the top of your head, you can text me later and tell me what those least favorite.
I think that the Rob Zombie Halloween movies are pretty terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Show of hands. Who agrees with this? Has anyone seen this? All right. Okay.
A few have seen, and they're the ones that agree.
What makes a good horror film? I know you talked about the story on it. So what is it that, like, when you watch a film, you're like, that makes a good horror film?
I really think a villain is really a great villain is really important. So the story is first, and then a really strong villain that makes the protagonists seem like they have a really uphill battle to climb. I also think that social commentary of some sort in there, like interweave, not like shoved down your throat, but just kind of interweave into the story. The best example I have of that are George Romero's Dead movies. Nyloon did, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. They all have some great social commentary just kind of woven into the story. Gore, a lot of people love gore. I like gore if it's used correctly. I'm not a big fan of just like gore for just the sake of having it in there. But if it makes sense for the story and for certain characters, then I'm all for it. But yeah, suspense, building suspense is key. Like,
And maintaining that suspense, right? Because so many times I watched it, like I horror movies building up really good, and it just lost the steam right there toward the end. So.
And for some reason, horror films have trouble sticking the ending. Like the first two acts are incredible, and then the ending just like, what? You know. So I think you gotta really have a great ending.
Yeah, that's good. Did you see the scariest movie of all year, Inside Out 2?
Inside Out 2.
Yeah. Nothing scarier than teenagers.
Nothing, exactly. Yeah,
it was so terrifying.
I have a daughter that's a senior in high school, so yeah, it's very, very scary.
Oh, you lived it? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you see Cars and Ghosts before she was born?
Oh, no, I did not scare her.
Well, she may not follow in your footsteps. Sorry.
Awesome. What are the craziest places that you filmed? Because some of these sets, now I've watched the movies, and some of the sets, like in like certain, they look like log cabin type of houses and stuff that you filmed in. Are there any crazy locations that you've filmed in? You're like, there's something about this place. We definitely come out here.
Yeah. So we just finished shooting my first original full-length feature film called Forest of the Trees. That should be coming out in January, February, hopefully. But we shot at a place called Gypsy Camp and Canoe in Salem Springs, and the buildings are like from the early 1940s, and they are incredible looking. Very, very creepy place. They do like float trips, but they have like this, like these 4 or 5 buildings where people used to camp in, and that's where we shot our demon cult movie.
Wow.
And that was an incredible location.
Awesome. Did you stay there?
No. Our shoots were overnight. We had like 4 or 5 overnight shoots, so technically I guess we did stay there, but we didn't sleep.
So have you ever had anything like, I know you said you haven't necessarily experienced anything paranormal or a haunting or anything like that. Have you ever had anything weird happen on set? It could be someone showing up to it just out of place, anything like that. What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you in the process?
So again, this last film, Forest of the Trees, we shot at a Airbnb in Rogers, Arkansas. It's called the Clayton House or something like that, I think. But my hair and makeup person and my script supervisor both were open down that the place was haunted, and that they actually were talking with the ghost. And the ghost didn't like us there. He wanted the main character, the main male lead character out of the house. Didn't like him, and so that got a little weird.
Yeah.
Did you ever offer him a job?
No.
It goes to the key grip.
Talk to me.
Punch up your script for you.
That would be great.
You're like, no, we would never act this way. This is what we would actually do.
Right.
We're haunt you. Yeah.
From one ghost to another.
From one ghost to another.
You should remember this. I mean, you were haunting before you were born.
That's right.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Jason. And your movie that's coming up is
It's called The Forest of the Trees.
Forest of the Trees. Yes.
Demon Cult movie.
Not the Forest of the Trees. Forest of the Trees.
The Forest.
Oh, the Forest.
Yeah, sorry.
There's an article there. There's an article.
Yeah, there's a the there.
Teacher, where you were. Awesome. Well, how did you watch that movie when it does come out?
I'm in the process of, I'm talking to 7 distribution companies, so I don't know exactly where it's going to land yet. I am working with the Arkansas Cinema Society on doing some screenings in Arkansas before it is officially released, like once it's ready to be viewed. Hopefully we're looking at Northwest Arkansas, here in Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Jonesboro. Those are the 4 locations we're looking at.
So how can we keep up to date on when this?
You can follow the Forest Through the Trees on Facebook.
Very nice.
Very cool. Well,
Or my personal Facebook, which is Jason Pitts.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to showing it. So,
Very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Jason. And stay sitting there.
Sitting here.
We're going to invite up our next guest. He is a very prolific writer. As I said, he's written so many books. I asked him how do you write so many stories with such a limited amount of time, like the rest of us human beings. Unless I'll ask him, but I think he may, sit outside of our regular time, and that's where he spends his time writing his books, and then comes back. Okay. And John or Jacobs, I'm going to welcome him to the stage. John, when you get situated, I want you to think about that introduction and how. Did you hear the crickets?
What?
Did you hear the crickets?
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay. I wasn't good paying attention. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and for talking with us. Your stories, I went to your website and went down the list of how many books that you had. I would describe them as sort of Lovecraftian. Would you agree?
Yeah, some of them definitely are. I started off writing sort of Lovecraftian stuff, and then I read a zombie novel, and I wrote a fantasy series, and then a young adult series, and I've sort of but both of those were kind of spooky, and then I've come back to just writing straight horror. So I have a few books like that.
Okay, awesome. Are you working on things now?
What's that?
Are you working on things now?
Yes. I have a couple of books coming out. I have a book coming out next year from Putnam. This is sort of I call it my nautical nonsense novel. It's sort of a haunted sailboat kind of novel. And then I've got another one next year called Dreadfolk, which is a folk horror sort of novel. And then I've got 3 other projects that are done, that are just in the process of going through the publishing gamut.
Publishing gamut.
Yes.
Okay. So to write that much, where do you pull inspiration from? Or you just have a really vivid dream cycle? What pulls you into that?
Well, okay, so it sounds like I write a lot. I'm not really that prolific in the sense I started in 2008 and I wrote my first 3 books before I even got published. So it's been a long journey, and then I haven't had a book out for 4 years. So I've got a backlog of work that sounds like it sounds like I'm busier than I actually am, which I'm not I'm writing 8 hours every day. I'm not that guy. But I have averaged about a book a year at least. There's been a couple of years that I did 2 books because I had to, because of contracts and stuff.
Yeah. So we just asked what makes good horror in film, okay? And as horror from a reading perspective is a newer genre to me. My wife is all about it. She can burn through some horror books. That's a newer genre to me, and I realized that there is an interesting difference you start picking up on a good horror film when you learn what a good horror novel is. What makes a good horror novel? Because you don't have image, right? It's all imagination. So you have that hook, that drive. So what is that?
Right. I think the same things, I like what Jason said, I think the same things that make a good horror film make a good horror novel, which is mostly character. You often hear people say in writing, there's no new stories, right? And I always have a little problem with that because they're just talking about plots. They're just talking about the plot. So, that movie's just a revenge plot or whatever, right? But that sort of minimizes all the other ingredients that go in. So that's, character, style, tone of voice, the narrator, especially, the author themselves who are imbuing part of themselves in it are telling the story that might have a plot that has been done before. But it's a new story about the characters that they put in it and the parts of themselves that they put in. So, but mostly it's I think characters. In film, I watch a lot of film, and I'm also a screenwriter. And I think the things that make really good books and films is a narrow focus, parameters. Like if you're making a film, you write to your resources. I have these resources that I know, and I'm gonna use them as best I can. I'm gonna use my, I know I have that actor, I know I have that actor. I'm gonna use them as best I can, and it makes you write more interesting ways because you've distilled your focus down, and it works in books as well. Like example, I'm writing this folk horror novel that's going to come out in 2026, and it's set in America, and it's also set in Germany. And it was very important that I had an American who doesn't really know a lot about Germany, because I don't know a lot about Germany, and I can't write like I'm an expert on Germany. So I have to do it through her perceptions, right? And it's a sort of tunnel vision. So it allows me to be ignorant, and it allows her to discover things as I discover them. Does that make any sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
So I think people tend to want to throw everything into something when they need to sort of distill their idea into its finest point, and then sort of stab the eye out of the reader or viewer. Sorry, kids.
So many kids.
Yeah.
I like that because a lot of times, we have this idea that we have to know everything. And I feel like from a creative standpoint, it's like you have to know everything going into it, because if you get one little thing wrong or something, like but the idea of you literally writing a character from your perspective and say, hey, they're learning because I'm going through this process of learning too, and that's a really cool lens to kind of look from just a creative standpoint as well. So I appreciate you sharing that.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
That's what you're here for?
Yeah, it's share.
I thought it was the fire. I don't know, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is warm. You like it? So have you ever considered, I guess, since you write your movie or you write your books in the same way that you would, if you were seeing it as a movie, inevitably, do you think about somebody picking up the film rights to your books and trying to produce that?
Well, yeah, I've had a couple of books optioned, and they're in various stages of development hell. One's optioned for television, my book, Lush and Seething Hell, and then another story from one of my short story collection, a novelette that is in development, Purgatory. And, it is, I was telling Jason earlier, and I love, the thing I like about writing books is, when I write a book, there is, because at my stage of my career, I have an agent, I have a film agent, all that, there's when I finish a book, there's a 95% chance it's going to be published, right? Somewhere around there, just because, unless I just totally flub it, right? Yeah. But I've written screenplays, and it's a 99.99% chance nothing will ever happen with that, unless I do it myself, like Jason, which is awesome. Like, the thing that I get excited about horror films, because I wanted to say the most exciting stuff that's going on in horror films are people who are outside of the studio. So people like Jason who are doing more indie filmmakers, but also like Argentinian filmmakers and Indonesian filmmakers and anyone who's outside of America who are just sort of like doing it on their own and figuring it out, are making more exciting, more interesting, more original works now than really anything in studio, in my opinion.
Can we dive into that a little bit deeper? Because, with the way that the internet is now, I see a lot of creatives shifting away from the bigger conglomerates, right? Because it's just the barrier of entry versus like the reward it's just not really adding up as much anymore. So I'd love to hear both of your perspective on, big film, big novel, big media, whatever that, versus like keeping it in-house, like what are the pros and cons and what are the true horrors of working in the industry?
Well, in publishing, I was telling him, it's always, when you're dealing with publishers, and your books are out on submission or you're trying to, it's always no, until it's yes, right? And then ultimately, you get through. But in all my experiences in Hollywood, which has been not a lot, but I've taken a lot of meetings, and it's always yes. Oh, yes. Oh, this is amazing. We're going to do it. And then at the end, it's a no. Mm-hmm. It's just because in like the whole Hollywood bit is through the studios, and they are absolutely risk averse. Everything is profit, P&L, profit and loss. It's all analyzed. And even if you get it done, then it's focus group, and then the studio will come back and say, no, we're going to change the ending because they didn't like that. But, that sort of design by committee, which always produces homogenized, bland, tame stuff, is why you get things like Alien Romulus, which was good until it wasn't, right? And that's a big tentpole franchise. That they sort of blew it. But then you get some like Argentinian filmmaker, like the guy who made When Evil Lurks, and it's like the scariest movie that's ever been put out. Not ever, but it's like recently. It is terrifying. But the reason people keep going to it is there's more money, within the studio. Like if you can get one in past the goalie, you're kind of made. Right, but that's people are gambling on that, really.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The pros and cons, independent. The pro is you're in control. You can do whatever you do as long as you're in your parameters. I'm saying like whatever your resources are. That's what your box is, your limit is. But you still have complete creative control. The cons is you are limited by what you have. The pros of a higher level is you have a huge, much bigger budget, $2-3 million, so your resources are a lot more. But the con is you don't have near as much control. Like you're answering to producers and whatnot. But those are the pros and cons.
Going back to novels.
Sure.
What is one horror book that has stuck with you? That nothing modeled your work after, but that one book that has stuck with you, just or an author, and that is a person or a topic that has stuck with you.
Right. Well, I always keep coming back to, I love monsters. I love the classic Universal monsters, Dracula and whatever. I always keep coming back to vampires just because, my dad showed me. I was too young to watch Dracula, but I wasn't too young to watch Abbott and Costello meet Dracula and Frankenstein and all, or it might have been Frankenstein, but Dracula also was in that. And then I was so into the Bela Lugosi Dracula when I was a kid that was one of my formative influences. So I keep coming back to that, and I've got my sort of take on Dracula, which it's not good enough to when you're shooting for something that big, that sort of iconic. It's not ready. Right? I gotta go back and rewrite it, and make it better. But I tend to, as a writer, and sort of writing is a process of sometimes dredging up your own psychological problems and fears. I tend to focus on sort of existential crises rather than monsters. Monsters are ultimately, the great thing about sort of 80s horror and monsters is they're very cathartic, because when you have a monster in fiction, or it's usually like a mystery. It's like, oh, something's killing the kids. Oh, it's a werewolf. Oh, here's how you kill a werewolf. Boom, we've gotten the silver bullet and we've shot the werewolf and killed, and now we can go back to the status quo. We figured out the problem, we solved it. We've lost some good people, but the kids we care about are safe. And that's very comforting, right? But I tend to write stuff that's more about stuff that there's no silver bullet for.
Yeah.
And it tends to be a little bit bleaker. And I'm actually struggling with the fact that horror can often be nihilistic. And I'm trying to figure out ways to still tell the stories I like, but have them be a little bit more uplifting. Even if it's just the human spirit the human spirit versus some sort of larger thing. Yeah, I don't even know if that answered your question.
It does. And my last question to that, before I turn it back over to you, because I was like chatting out. So you mentioned Dracula, and so I gotta go vampires. I love a good vampire, but there's a lot of really bad vampire work. So what's your opinion on Flanagan's work?
Midnight Mass?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love Midnight Mass because it feels like our town. It feels like a play about a small town, but then you introduce this sort of like, it's very Stephen King.
Yeah.
Ish, like it's very much like Salem's Lot meets our town.
Mm.
And I love that take on it.
Yeah, no, my favorites too. So.
And my wife likes some horror movies, but she doesn't like others. And we watched that together in like one weekend, which is rare. So it was very, very, very good. Well done.
And Jason, just so have you seen it?
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
I agree. It's fantastic. I loved it. We were due for a really good vampire series.
Absolutely.
And that was it. That boat sunrise scene was heartbreaking. Yeah. So.
But compare and contrast that to like Chapelway,
Yeah.
which was not that good. Though it had some good DNA in it. It just didn't work out, right? It didn't. But I mean, like, growing up, Fright Night was my jam. Like,
Love Fright Night.
Or like Near Dark, or they just don't make them like that anymore. I can't really think of a really good sort of vampire movie recently. Kronos by Del Toro was a really good one, but yeah.
You think that Nicolas Cage made a really good Dracula?
Yeah, I did watch that. Actually, he was pretty fun. That movie was, it was a movie.
It was a movie.
You wasted a couple hours,
I mean, I enjoyed my time in the theater watching it. I'm glad I always go to movies, even though I know I'm probably not going to like them, because I want more movies like that to be made. Like, I went and saw Skinamarink in the theater.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
And, well, I'll say this in defense of Skinamarink. Skinamarink, if you guys don't know, is an experimental film that is literally like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
And I went out to that Southwest Little Rock theater, and I was like, I want a ticket to Skinamarink, and they were like, okay. And I was the only person in the theater. And it started raining while I was in there, so you could hear it on the roof. And I started getting angrier and angrier, just like, why, just give me something, give me one thing, right? And they never did really. But when I walked out, because like, after that, like, hour and a half of nothing, and just anticipating anything they were gonna give me, it's like starving, and then someone offers you a crumb, you're like, oh, that's the best crumb I've ever had. Like, I walked out, and I was literally kind of like altered. My mood was altered. Like, it was such a long experience. So, I mean, I was like, I kind of get it, but I never would ever want, they could have done the same thing in 5 minutes, right? But I supported it because I liked the idea of it. It just sucked.
That's a word for it.
That's a word for it, yeah. Your review for that movie is this could have been an email.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a little game I want to play with you guys, because I got two masters of horror right here that are based in Arkansas, and what I want to do is test your knowledge about horror stories, whether it's movies, whether it's books. These are some of the classic ones. These are some of the obscure ones as well. But I want to test, like, how well do you know it? This is your field. You do the pros.
I'm not a master.
You're the master. I mean, I already said it, so it's got to be true. Everything's true.
I'm scared.
So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to name a weapon, and you tell me what movie or story it was used in. Okay?
Do we just like chime in? Or?
I'll give you something. Yeah. There's no point system on this, so you're not really competing against each other. We just want to see where you're at. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a softball. So a leather glove with blades on the fingers. Of course. Did you just hand that over to Jason?
No, I mean, he was on it before I was.
You were like, that guy. Yeah.
Freddy Krueger.
Okay. How about a chainsaw that attaches to an arm?
Oh, Ash, Evil Dead.
That's right, exactly. Specifically, which Evil Dead? You know which one he put it on?
That was in 2.
That's right.
Dead Before Dawn.
Excellent. A machete. This one can have multiple legs.
Jason's.
Yeah. Of course.
Machetes are terrifying just on their own.
Yeah.
They are. You see a machete in a movie, it's terrifying. A puzzle box.
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, that's a little bit harder. A hook.
Candyman.
Candyman. I also would have accepted what you did last time. What you did last time.
The Fisherman.
All right. How about this one? A corn cob.
William Faulkner Sanctuary. That's actually my favorite.
A what?
There's a terrifying scene in William Faulkner's Sanctuary. It's not appropriate for mixed children. Sorry.
I thought that you said William Shatner Sanctuary.
Faulkner's
I was
Sanctuary.
like, what did he do with corn cobs?
I don't know that one. Jason?
I'm guessing.
Sleepwalkers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's when people turn into cats and
Cats,
cats and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, with the cob.
I remember almost like author came.
She takes a cornless cob and shoves it through the back of the cob.
Nice.
Yep, that's the thing that happened in cinema. Cotton candy gun.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's it. You got it. Awesome. All right, I got two more on here. A microwave. It's probably
Gremlins?
Gremlins. Oh my God, I got it. I knew Jason was gonna nail this thing. Reverse bear trap.
I don't even know what a reverse. I
Do
mean,
you know what a bear trap is?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, reverse that.
Reverse.
Saw?
That's Saw, yes, absolutely. One of the most famous weapons ever used.
I never saw that movie.
Really?
Never saw Saw?
Never saw
I never saw Saul. I never saw Hostel.
Yeah.
I don't like the torture stuff.
Yeah.
Saw's, in my opinion, is much better than Hostel because there's an actual story to it.
Yeah.
Which one? All right, second part of this. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you a plot of a movie, and you're gonna tell me, was this an actual movie or is this something I made up?
Okay.
Okay. A kindly ice cream man makes it his life's mission to battle the evil of a supernatural funeral director.
Actual movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Phantasm.
This, oh my gosh, Phantasm, yes, that is exactly.
I
That was a
didn't
movie.
know
That
that.
happened. Ice cream man versus funeral director. That's all that happened.
Yeah.
A group of teenagers on a rafting trip are stalked by a creature made entirely of rubber.
That is an actual movie.
Yes,
Rubber.
it's called Rubber. That's a thing. You guys can watch
You do this for a living?
Yeah.
You're right. You can't do anything with a horror movie. You're correct. Okay, a virtual reality game that traps players in a horrifying digital world where they must fight for their lives against a grizzled Kurt Russell.
Tron?
No, Beach Up Bridges.
Okay.
I don't think that's a real one.
Oh, wait, with Kurt Russell. No. Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I made that one up. It sounds like it's real, right?
Yeah.
It does look real.
You threw a star in there.
You're like Kurt Russell. Yeah, he was in that.
That
I'm
was,
pretty sure I saw that.
That was sneaky.
A family discovers that their new pet dog is actually a werewolf in disguise.
That sounds like it's a real premise of a movie, but I don't know which one it is.
Their new pet.
Oh, is it that bad movie? No.
So I made it up. It's not real.
Oh,
So we get on IMDb right now.
It's right. No, I made that one up.
I'm gonna put that one in my pocket.
That would be interesting though. Yeah, I saw it. Why hasn't anybody done this? You adopt a young werewolf pup, you know? And then like you bring it home and then it transforms into a human. Like
That would be freaky.
Yeah.
Right now, something reverse.
Who's drinking all the milk out of the refrigerator? You never know, it's actually your dog. It's just a human.
Well, it's just a, I don't know what the, were means man, so
Yeah.
werewolf. So it would just be, you have to reverse it. And it's just like a great dog, but then one day a year, one day a month, he turns into a man. It's just like,
Oh my God! I think that's a British TV show.
What?
He's in like a costume. That's a real thing. Like,
Okay.
His dog can talk to him. It's just a guy dressed up in a costume. Like that's the whole thing. It's weird British comedy. You don't know the name of it. If anyone knows it,
oh yeah,
shout
it's
it out.
Elijah Wood in it.
Yeah.
Wilfred.
I heard Wilfred and Great British Bake Off. A couple on a night drive to get lost. I don't think you make drives to get lost. They drive.
Made up.
How about this? A couple on a night drive get lost and stumble upon a bizarre rock and roll convention where strange things happen.
That sounds real. Rocky Horror.
Yeah, it's from
Rocky Horror, shown in the theater many times, yes.
Of course.
All right, Dracula runs a hotel for monsters where they can be themselves.
Hotel Transylvania.
That's right, Hotel Transylvania. Was
I
that
got
good?
kids.
Was that a good vampire movie? You said it hadn't been one of years.
I mean, it's got vampires in it, but you know, I don't really.
So did Twilight.
Yeah.
Did it? Was those vampires? Yeah. An elderly Elvis helps JFK
Love that.
fight an ancient mummy in the nursing home. That's right, the hotel. You're right.
It's by Joe Lansdale.
Yeah.
Great movie.
All right, last one for you guys. A small town infestation of crawling alien foreheads that begin attaching to people and taking them over collides with a scientist's experiments to extract foreheadazine, and things go horribly wrong.
Foreheads?
Yeah, alien foreheads. They attach to your head.
That's probably a movie.
That's really close to an episode.
I'm gonna say yes. It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a really bad. I wouldn't even call it a B movie. It's lower than that. It's called The Trail of the Screaming Forehead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing you can watch.
Where can I
If
see
you
that
don't
movie?
rent that, pay that.
I'm gonna screen that after this. Is it on Tubi?
We're not just screaming foreheads, please.
Anyway, there are no bad horror movies. There are only varying degrees of good horror movies.
Exactly.
I guess so. Is it like a taste thing? Like it's just whoever
It's just
the
like
singer is?
it's just when they're bad, they're fun.
Yeah. Sure.
When they're good, you're scared.
Yeah. For sure.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
Sorry,
please.
both of you real quick. So I've heard the adage that when you want to write good horror, write as a comedy first. What's that about? And is it just bogus? What is that?
I'll let you go first.
I have no. I mean, one, writing humor is really hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've never actually heard that before, but I do know that like writing comedy is harder than writing drama because it's just a more exacting and subjective thing. So maybe it's part of that. Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm petrified of doing comedy. I'm super scared of comedies. I think I can tackle just about any other genre, but I'm petrified of trying comedy. Like he said, it's incredibly hard. The timing has to be impeccable, and I don't write comedies first. I stick to the horror.
Well, so you heard it all here first, that the real horror is humor.
What makes me laugh and make you cry.
Yeah. Very good. Okay.
Awesome.
That's all I have.
Very cool. You guys give it up for Jason and John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Our next guests are also podcasters. So if you guys are used to listening to podcasts, especially local podcasts about weird stuff, you probably listen to this particular podcast that these two host. So we'll bring down Lisa and Amber from Unexplained Arkansas. Guys, give you a hand. The matching school uniforms fabulous. I hope this is just like everyday dress. This is how you guys are looking.
Oh, these are going to be my everyday shoes.
Everyday shoes, but not the everyday outfit?
I don't know. We'll see how we feel.
Okay, awesome.
So you're obviously too young to remember the facts of life, right?
You see that I still have no hair? We talked about this at the beginning.
Okay, yeah, because we're the facts of life.
Okay, I see. And I knew that you guys were going to be dressed as this because I listened to the recent episode about the state house.
Right.
You guys talked about these costumes that you guys were going to do. So I kind of got scooped because I listened to them. Yeah. How are you?
We're good.
Great.
Good, thank you. Glad to have you. If you don't mind, pull that microphone to you a little bit.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I just
I
start?
love directing other podcasters. I have speak for
Yes.
Got it?
Yes. Oh, she's got
You
it.
there?
Are you going to sing something?
Trying.
Okay.
I like to sing when we're doing our thing. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, a little something. Oh, I keep seeing Michael Myers, and he's my favorite thing.
Does it shock you every time?
Every time. I'm like, oh, it's like,
It just kind of stands out.
I know, he's so cute.
Awesome.
Okay.
So tell us about your show, Unexplained Arkansas. Please.
Well, it's a really serious show. No. We are two best friends that just wanted to do something creative together, and we both love like mysteries and true crime and paranormal. And so we kicked around tons of ideas, and we came out to do the podcast, and we wanted to be open, so we named it Unexplained Arkansas. So we do focus on Arkansas things, but we try to, we can kind of do it all unexplained.
Can I ask a very serious question?
Yes.
Do you explain Arkansas on the show?
No, there's no explaining. Some things. Some things.
I mean, we try, but no. I mean, there's so much. And really, so when we sat down to do this, we were like, okay, well, let's see if we even have content. So we planned out like things, and we came up with 30 ideas right off the cuff. And I don't think we've even tackled all of that, have we?
The original.
The original 30? I don't think we have.
Several of them we have.
But it's like, we now have 57 episodes, and there's still so much unexplained in our state. So, and we love it.
And you love it. Yeah. So I noticed that your show kind of incorporates a lot of different things, and so you need to tackle a lot of different areas. And there's the true crime part, of course, but there's also like history, which is like just facts about like here's the history of this place. Here's some strange things that happened here, though, and here's what might have happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and Amber, you talk about your folk. She loves the folklore, and I don't. But you love it. So, but yeah.
Are you the unexplained part?
Okay.
Is this part of the mystery you're building up now?
No, I'm just waiting for my turn. So I have a deep love for folklore and the state of Arkansas, and I've taught for a long time. I was a public school teacher for 10 years, and then this is my 7th year in higher education. I'm a professor. That's what I do for real. That's my real job. And I just have a love for teaching and for educating people of things. I feel like the state of Arkansas has a lot to give. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of mystery. And, when we first decided to only do Arkansas, or Unexplained Arkansas, we thought, well, we are limiting ourselves by doing that. But it's actually not. We are not limited at all. And we keep finding new things, and people keep giving us new ideas. And I just love bringing out these things that are, just all Arkansas. And, letting people hear it for the first time or remember something from the past.
So what is, you say you have a love for folklore of Arkansas. What are some of the most interesting things you have learned in your pursuit of Arkansas folklore? What are some things that just stand out to you immediately?
Well, I've read a lot of Vance Randolph, and he seems to be a pretty interesting character. He came down here to live amongst the Ozark people, and wrote lots of folklore-based writings. And I've read a lot about him. I've done a lot of research in the Ozark area, but also the Little Rock area as well. I think that what I have learned is that, stories change from generation to generation, and they change a little bit with every new generation. And I love to watch the progression of that.
Yeah, that's cool. So how do you pick your stories?
We take turns. She'll do one week, then I will do one the next week, and so that means the person that is their week for the story does all the research, and then the other one just kind of responds to the story. It's kind of like a question and answer type.
Yes. And I'm a planner, so mine are I've got my November planned already. And so even my last one, we did the Cobbites, the cult of Circe, which was a cult in the late 1800s. So that was actually given to us it was several people that gave it to us, but more than 6 months ago. So sometimes they're just, we kind of do it seasonally, like spooky season, or we'll go through like a period where we just did 2 missing persons episodes, so that was really heavy. And so we'll kind of be like, okay, we want to do a cult, instead, or maybe
Which is
just like, yeah, cults are not heavy. But with the missing person, we kind of got into kind of a situation where the Morgan Nick news broke a couple of weeks ago. We kind of had to change gears. We had another one planned for that week, and then we shifted gears for the week and decided to talk about the Morgan Nick case. But, like she said, now that we're getting closer to Halloween, we are going to be doing more that are kind of geared toward that kind of spooky season type stuff. So Halloween, things like that. So.
Do you have any like teasers for what to expect?
For what?
Do you have any teasers for some of those episodes that are going to be coming out?
Yes.
She hasn't told me what she's doing.
Yeah, I like to kind of keep it, But I'm kind of the opposite of her, and if I change my mind and want to do something else, I will. So I'm not going to say what my next one will be, but I am looking at,
I love you.
but it will be around Little Rock area. I'll tell you that. So yeah.
And I'm gonna do for the last week in March. So we put out, we record on Sundays, it's just easier for our schedules, and then they come out on Monday. But I'm doing the Allen House down in Monticello.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of wanted it to be haunted, big for that last weekend in Halloween.
So the Allen House?
The Allen House.
What is that?
Ooh. Ooh. Okay,
It'll be a
so.
week from Monday when that will come
Oh,
out.
when will it come out? Or
No, what?
What is
What is
it?
that?
What is, the Allen House is?
Oh, it's so
in Monticello.
interesting.
It's amazing. It's a haunted. It's one of our biggest haunted houses in the state.
It has been featured.
Like actual haunted, not like a seasonal actors and stuff.
Actual haunted house.
Actual haunted.
Yes.
Wow.
And
Okay.
they opened so I don't know if the current owners are opening it up now. I think the house was for sale, but the house was built in the 1800s, late 1800s. And so the Allen family built the home, and they lived there for many years, and there's a whole story there. And the current owner that purchased it in 2007, so he actually wrote a book about the history of the house and the hauntedness. So it just has a glorious history. It is a beautiful Queen Anne style home, and it is just openness. So history, hauntings, the lore. You went to visit the house. Did you do dinner there? So we did, they had the house open. They opened it up for Halloween events or private tours, and then they did dinner with the ghost. So me and my husband, we went back in I want to say 2015, 2016. And so it was awesome. You have dinner, and then you can go around the house. You get the whole spiel about the house and everything from them, and then you can just do your own EVP sessions if you want. You can just experience the house. But it's just a really beautiful house, and it's said to be our most haunted home in Arkansas and maybe the country.
Wow.
The country. But this is according to their website. So I will say it has been on several shows. The Ghost Hunters went. It's been on a Haunting, which was a Discovery Channel or Travel Channel show. But it's been on several TV shows. And so there's a book, and then anyway, it's awesome. So stay tuned, Ty.
We're staying tuned, yeah.
You gotta listen to that one. So I'm very excited.
Absolutely. So one I've recently learned or listened to was Tommy Bell was the old state house that was right here in Little Rock, and there was some really crazy things that were attached to it. I mean, sometimes you drive through here and you see a lot of these buildings that have been around for a long time, and you don't really think about it because they're just part of the scenery. You go through here many times, but then you hear stories like what you told, and it's you're like, wow. Now I see this building in a completely different way, from the stabbing that happened there, not to be common or anything, but but there was a lot of really crazy things that happened to what would have been the Capitol, right?
Right.
At the time.
And I think it's funny because I taught Arkansas history in K-12, and of course I was a student of Arkansas history, as most of us were, and we all heard those stories. But it hasn't resonated it didn't resonate with my students the way it has been telling it through the podcast. That makes sense. We've all heard that story. You've been taught that story. We've just all forgotten it about the stabbing that happened in the State House. But when you kind of spin it like this, it makes it a lot more interesting. So that's part of the reason that I do it, because I feel like that I really am, spreading real history and Arkansas folklore to everyone in our state, because these are stories that I don't want to go away and I don't want to disappear. But just on that note, the next one I'm doing, since she wants me to tell y'all, is going to be the Capitol building, which is kind of the same thing. There are some secrets underneath, which you can just do a Google search and you can find out what's underneath the current Capitol, but that's what we'll be talking about. So, yeah. It used to be something else, I'll just tell you that. And now there may be people buried under it.
So you've been literally underneath.
There may be people buried. Well, I'll just say it was the old prison. It was the old state prison that is under our current state capitol. And there were people, buried there at the time. So technically speaking, there could probably still be people there. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, so while we're on this, you two have a very awesome position that I'm going to say probably 90% at least of your audience is from Arkansas, right? Like we have some time in Arkansas, that's why we listen to an Arkansas show. So you have a very condensed pool of people that are interested in these local areas. Which topic or episode or thing you have covered do people just seem to gravitate toward the most? Is there like an episode that's just like, man, people just not shut up about this?
Oh, yeah, we've had a couple like that. The Jane Ward case up in North Arkansas in Marshall, that one had a very large audience. We did a Galloway Gertie, which was the Harding University goes, had a pretty big audience, as did Harding. The Ruby Stapleton case, she was a professor that was murdered in the 60s in Searcy. That was a very cold case that is suddenly kind of getting new attention because there is a book out and another one coming. And so yeah, we've been very surprised what has gotten the most attention and what people have, liked to listen to best.
Some of our true crime, but yeah, ghosts.
For me, I like to do a ghost story better than a true crime because, ghosts, can't hurt you, I don't think. I'm kind of the skeptic of the duo, so,
Yeah.
I love ghosts.
You love ghosts.
Yes. Oh, a good scary, like haunted story or ghost story, like around a fire. Oh yeah. What was my favorite ghost story that we've done? I think the Galloway Gertie is still my favorite. So just it's interesting that almost every college campus has a ghost story.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. And most of them are the same story, but it's interesting, like we kind of debunk the Galloway Gertie, but Galloway Gertie for Harding University people, like they even had a Twitter account for Gertie. It was like a thing, like a whole name, and it ended up not being. Anyway, you guys have to listen to that. Episode 1, Galloway Gertie.
So Gertie was a person.
Yes, and she didn't die at Harding University as the stories were always told. She lived a long life, and I think on the West Coast somewhere. So she,
And then she had a Twitter account?
She had.
Her ghost did.
Her ghost had a Twitter account?
Yeah.
And there is truly a paranormal situation going on at Harding. I would say, there's so many stories that you couldn't really be like, you can't really refute that there is, but it's not Gertie. It's not necessarily her. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So.
You covered that in one of your episodes.
Yes, that's our number 1 episode. That was like
First episode.
That was our very first episode.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to start with your show, they should start with number 1.
But they should know that that we get a little better as the episodes go on.
Number 1's always the worst.
Yeah, the first one there's a little bit of rambling that goes on. We really weren't sure that anybody was going to listen besides our family, and so
I was sure that no one was going to listen.
Yeah, I didn't think my family would listen, but they did, and it just kind of caught fire, and it was really surprising to us both. We started this, with just a few set goals, and we've met every one of those goals already that we've had for ourselves. So everything else that happens from here on out is just, icing on the cake.
Yes, and there's no end in sight. Are you guys going to keep doing the show? Is this your day job?
It's what?
Is it your day job? I know one of you is a teacher.
I'm a professor.
You're a professor.
Yes.
I'm retired.
You're
Yeah,
what?
I'm retired.
Retired from what? You're too young.
I know. So I was a mortgage loan officer for 22 years, and
Yeah.
I retired from banking, and now I substitute teach and do this. So,
Nice.
big layer.
Do those skills that you learned in that previous profession help you with this
Oh, goodness.
what you're doing now?
Yes, I will
Yeah.
say the business end of it has really helped tremendously with the business. Yeah, so
Mhm.
all of my banking experience has helped because there was a lot of business stuff to do with this, so
Yeah.
that I didn't even think about. So, but
And you said you're a professor, so what is your avenue of study?
Okay, so my story's a little bit different. I did journalism for a very long time, from the age of 16 till about 26, and then I went into teaching, and I've been in teaching for about 17 years. When I was in journalism, I did mostly newspaper, but also radio, and so doing this was kind of stepping back into that realm just a little bit, just enough, because it was a lot of fun and I loved it. It was just not something that I wanted to do while raising a family. So, because it's hard to be a full-time reporter, let me tell you, it's a hard job. So I went into education and spent 10 years in K-12, and then now I teach educational technology, exceptional children, and anything education-wise I teach at my college.
and she has 3.
And I have 3 kids. I have 3 boys, and I have a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Yeah. I've heard you guys talk about when on the podcast and stuff.
Yes.
So before you get into your stories, usually on your episodes, you sort of talk about, hey, let's catch up. How you been? What's
Yeah.
going on anyway?
Yeah, we discuss, or randomly discuss our children, or maybe some McDonald's, like some of those pies, holiday pies. Yeah, yeah. We'll go off on tangents sometimes, especially early episodes. But
Yeah. Well, the podcast kind of came as a way to kind of, I guess, just for me to have, for us to have something to do outside of the norm, outside of what we have to do day in, day out. And, it was really a great time to start it. And, podcasting, I think, is just starting to get really big in Arkansas. And, I think it's been around, but I think a lot of people are moving towards the podcast medium. And I think this is a really great time for us to, be here at the very beginning of it.
Absolutely. I appreciate that you guys are here tonight for this.
oh yes, thank you for having us.
No, you have an incredible show. And I was surprised that on Facebook, the Facebook group that you guys started, and there's a really big following on there. And those people are very avid about interacting and posting and talking about their stories.
Wait, I'll have to look because I don't know. I have to look. We have 16.3 thousand.
Go follow us on Facebook.
And, that was holistic, that was just grown just holistically. It was not something that we paid to get followers. We just, I would come home from work, just kind of try to think of some fun content and just things to put on there that I could, get people to look at. And first it just started out being our friends and family, and then it started being our whole town, and then it kind of grew from there. We don't have as big of a reach on Instagram. And we don't do TikTok. I think we're too old for TikTok.
I hope we might venture into TikTok.
You can venture into TikTok.
I might get my daughter to do TikTok.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, we do have a second podcast that is on our Patreon, and it's called Scary Heifers. And that's where we get to talk about, it's okay, you can laugh. That's why we named it that.
I love it.
Yeah.
But,
we're heifers. We're cows now.
yeah, but that name came from, when we were in high school, we used to call each other heifer all the time. And so that's how that name came about. But on Scary Heifers, we talk about our favorite scary movies. We don't do a scene for scene, but we do, talk about our favorite scenes, talk about the actors, talk about little known facts, things like that. Because deep down, it's kind of one thing I would like to do eventually is do a horror movie podcast, but do it kind of in a different way. So, I think that would be a future endeavor I would like to do. That and a podcast on the 90s and all things 90s. So.
She loves the 90s. I want to make this unexplained America.
Yes, she does.
That is the eventual goal, that will venture maybe to some neighboring states or monthly do something, but I think we're going to take it like the country eventually.
She has such high hopes.
I do.
I did, you know, you made yourself something Arkansas, which we did in the beginning too with our organization.
Yeah.
And it's like you realize that, that this kind of draws a boundary around yourself, but there's still opportunities outside of the boundary that are like requesting your services or helping them. Like there's so much more to explore. And like you kind of put yourself in a box when it's like very little. It's like good intentions, but Arkansas rich with history, rich with ghost stories, and like you said, pretty much everywhere is haunted.
Tons of true crime. And
There is I think there right now with the Southern Gothic, there's a lot of people that are kind of geared towards the Southern Gothic in literature and movies and things such as that. That's always been one of my favorite kind of niches with movies and things like that. So, but I was an English major, so that's part of the reason. So.
Did you hear that?
Did I?
Did we bring the ghost with us?
There was like something behind it.
Really?
Oh, crap!
I think you probably.
He's over there.
Over there.
Michael? Yeah, let's go check it out. Okay, we'll be right back.
Okay.
You guys want to come? Yeah, let's go check it out.
We're gonna go.
No, I'm not scaring you. Of course not. Yeah, just follow me.
That looks good. Someone's gonna reach out and grab me.
Is this on? Okay. Now that I got them off the stage, I'm going to read a few ghost stories to you. My name is Kevin Brockmeyer. I've written a book called The Ghost Variations. It's 100 very short stories about ghosts, souls, and the afterlife. Some of them are frightening. Some of them are strange or eccentric. Some of them are humorous, some of them are sentimental. So I've chosen a handful of them to represent the set. First one I'd like to read is called 13 Visitations. The boy's irises were mismatched. That was what she noticed. One was a pale underwater blue, the other a brown so dark it commingled with his pupil. The woman had rounded the corner to find him sitting on her kitchen floor, playing with a small metal bulldozer. Probably she should have been frightened, or at least indignant, since she lived alone. He looked so vulnerable, though, with his legs spraddled out and his palm supporting his chin, that she leaned over and tousled his hair. "I think you picked the wrong door, buddy. What's the matter, you lost?" At her touch, he gasped. Then he lit out toward the foyer, yelling, "Mom, Mom." No more than a few seconds passed before she followed him, but already the front door was closed and he was gone. Funny little guy. Half an hour later, she was fiddling with the coasters on her coffee table when the mushroomy smell of wet leather seeped suddenly into the room. A teenager came humping past her in faded blue jeans and eroding tennis shoes. He switched on the TV, then caught sight of her and gave an electric leap. He flung the remote control at her. Her throat was so tight that the sound she produced came out in an alarming creak. That was when it happened. She could hardly have missed it. A little liquid detonation of a boy, erupting outward from himself, like a bubble scattering apart. In the half second before he vanished, she recognized something in his eyes. The left as brown as coffee beans, the right as blue as forget-me-nots. 11 more times that day, he appeared before her and then dematerialized. A moment was all it took, and pop. Each time she saw him, he was half a decade older, sometimes thinner, sometimes fatter, but always with those haunting eyes, brown and blue, and so unmistakably his own. 20, 25, 30, 35, and each time perfectly at home. When she went to water the holly fern, he was sitting in a chair with a washcloth on his forehead. When she finished boiling her afternoon tea, he was rummaging through the ice cream in the refrigerator. When she decided to brush her teeth, he was trimming his sideburns in the bathroom mirror. His entire life was passing, all caught in the maze of her day. She watched as he put on a wedding ring and removed it and grew old. After a time, she was no longer frightened to see him. And to judge from the smiles he wore, he not only accepted, but welcomed her. Shortly before midnight, she found him heaped at the end of the hallway, an old man, his arms bent like a kangaroo's. With a hard little kick of his breath, he said, I knew you'd come back. You're the reason I stayed here in this house, never left. All these years of waiting, and she placed a palm on his cheek. Already his lines were dispersing, and hers along with them. And in an instant, she understood which of them was truly haunted, and which of them doing the haunting. The second story I'd like to read is called 666. It's about the devil. It's the only story whose sentences I've ever dreamed clearly enough that I was able to wake up and write some of them down. After ages of bartering and seduction, the devil had accumulated the souls of so many sinners that they were like pennies to him. He spent them by the thousands just to get rid of them. 2,000 souls for a porcelain serving bowl. 3,000 for a set of neoprene hand weights. 10,005 for a boar bristle hairbrush. No matter how extortionate the price or how chintzy the merchandise, he paid up without a second thought, declining to haggle even when he knew it would be perceived as an insult. What were they to him, these divine sparks, these eternal spirits? If he dropped a few while fishing for change, what difference did it make? In fact, with each soul he squandered, hell became a little more agreeable. Sinner by sinner, the difference might be inappreciable. But over time, the devil noticed, his wastefulness was having an effect. The seas of fire were no longer so choked with the damned. And, as a result, the miasma of yellowish smoke that assaulted his lungs was gradually thinning out. The chorus of screams that filled the air had turned more euphonious and less chaotic. The wails of the individual sinners slightly more distinct. Inside the roar of their sextillion voices, the devil could almost hear the bright song of pain they used to sing. He remembered the jubilation with which he had welcomed his first lost soul. That scrawny, wet-eyed woman hobbling through the cavern in her wretchedness and confusion. And the feeling, as he watched her test her steps out on the coals, that in all his trials and misfortunes, there had perhaps been some furtive meaning, since through them he had come into this, his inheritance. Now that soul was indistinguishable from all the others, no more precious or golden than a swarm of mites in a blotch of sunlight. Weeds, he thought, pennies. He wasted 100,000 of them on a brushed nickel hand blender, 1.5 million on a waterbed with a walnut frame, a few million more on a 3-piece sectional sofa with a tufted ottoman. Still, his coffer of souls was bursting. Finally, he hired the priciest architectural firm he could find, met with its top designers and engineers, and instructed them to build him a mansion with many rooms, large enough to hold his countless useless possessions. Spare no expense, he ordered, and indeed they did not, leaving the devil cheerfully destitute. At night now, he likes to sit on his veranda, reclining in his wicker love seat. Only a single sinner remains from the vast collection of souls he labored to accumulate. He listens to the fellow's pleas for mercy. Amid the crackling of the flames, a kind of bird song. He has his health, he has his privacy, and he has a quiet home away from the radiance of creation. This, he has come to believe, was all he ever wanted in the first place. The next story I'd like to read is called The Hitchhiker. It's in conversation with an episode of The Twilight Zone that bears the same name, and I'm reading it because our hosts, Ty and Karen, requested that I do so. The Hitchhiker. The hitchhiker who asks her if she is going to Toledo is, of course, the Grim Reaper. He is not the first such hitchhiker she has encountered, nor will he be the last. His appearance at the side of the road is a sign and a demonstration that she has died, but does not yet know it. At least once a day, and usually more often, a man with thinning hair and a sun-blasted face, or baggy clothes and large O-shaped nostrils, or a wiry frame and eyes the color of creek moss, will walk up to her car while she is paused in traffic, and in a voice that reminds her of sand cascading over sand, soft and rustling, but also bone-like, arthritic, he will ask her about Toledo. One memorable Tuesday, she met 12 of them, a record. She died, she is reasonably sure, some 17 years ago. She was visiting a state park in Colorado, admiring the panorama from a cliffside observation deck, when all at once she landed, dazed, in the ankles of a fir tree. She tested her limbs and stood up. She was fine, she judged. Her head was clear, and her bones were miraculously unbroken, though she could already feel a bruise rounding out on her hip. But that afternoon, a hitchhiker at the park's entrance asked what so many thousands have asked her since. Are you going to Toledo? A few hitchhikers later, and she suspected she was dead. 2 or 3 more, and she was certain of it. She was not an idiot. But as long as she feigns ignorance, she has determined, the hitchhikers will not collect, condemn, transform, exalt, or annihilate her. She can remain safely among the living, free to dine out or watch TV, garden or surf the web, in the light of this world rather than the murk of the next. To the hitchhiker's question, therefore, she always answers no, she is not going to Toledo. If, that is, she answers at all. Sometimes, when she is tired or hurried, she finds it easier just to tap her ear, as though hard of hearing. At first, her simple-mindedness seemed to aggravate the hitchhikers. By what appalling failure of deduction could this woman continue to believe she was alive? It made no sense, she could see them marveling. Experimentally, for a year or two, they began approaching her in supermarkets, fitness centers, movie theaters, yoga studios, places where she could not, by any conceivable logic, and no matter how pointedly they asked, have been going to Toledo. But eventually they returned to the medians and street corners that were their natural milieu, waiting for her to realize that she had taken a fall and not survived. These days, it seems to her, they have secretly given up. Oh, they continue to ask her about Toledo, but by habit and without expectation. After all, she can pretend to misapprehend the truth of her situation indefinitely. It is not difficult. She is convinced that her intransigence has revealed a loophole in the cosmic order. All she has to do, she reasons, is maintain the ruse each time she is questioned, no matter how often, and she will survive not only to a lustrous old age, but also, and as it must be, forever. The next story I'd like to read is called A Notable Social Event. The ghost in the law firm's doorway never stops leaving. Every few seconds, she glides across the threshold of the exit, steps suddenly to her left, raises the back of her right hand to her cheek, and starts over, her face bearing a sunken look of hard concentration. She does not return to the spot where she began exactly. She recurs there. Her irises are white with death, her skin silver, her hair a gray-green Spanish moss. 107 years ago, in this very hall, where the law firm's warren of desks and tables was a ballroom with red oak parquetry and a hammered tin ceiling, the young physician on whose attention she had set her heart had spurned her for the linoner's daughter, putting his lips to her plump pink knuckles and declaring his infatuation before the entire room. Back then, the ghost was only a living girl of 15. Though she tried to leave furtively, at the doorway she stumbled into someone's manservant, a tall oak post of a fellow who punctured the silence between waltzes with, "I do beg your pardon, miss," and then, seeing the tears on her cheeks, "Are you not well?" The girl lifted her hand to her face in a spasm of embarrassment, then ran off into the square. Now she repeats the same maneuver again and again, but with a million minor variations. raising or lowering her elbow, rotating her ankle a 1/4 inch to the right, pivoting her waist to move the bustle of her gown. She flees through the door, then flees through the door again. She brings her hand to her cheek, this time as if to fend off a blow, the next as if to swat at an insect, the next as if to test for a fever. She separates her fingers slightly. She adjusts the angle of her wrist. It is not for shame that she haunts these few square feet of the law office, but for the inadequacy of the original gesture. At 15, she thinks, she failed to express the true complexity of her emotions, all the humiliation, resentment, forlornness, and heartache, each feeling in its exact proportions. And so, ever since she died, she has performed her flight from the ballroom with countless tiny re-inflections. She is like a singer who cannot stop trying to perfect a particular syllable. When she was alive, she spoke the moment. In truth, she mumbled it. And now she is trying to sing it. Sometimes, in the long hours of a summer afternoon, when the paralegals at their desks are seeking a distraction, they watch the ghost emerging from her pleat in space and time and wonder if their lives will slip by like hers did, leaving them fastened so hopelessly, so desperately to the past, as if a life could work any other way, as if that weren't precisely what a life must do. I think that is my signal to leave the stage. So thank you very much for listening.
The coast is clear.
I think somebody hit me with a book.
Is that what that thump was?
Yeah.
Wow. At least it's not ghosts.
How did it go out here? You guys are still in your seats. That's fine. It's interesting. So I went around this way. You guys went that way.
We did.
And there was 2 other people besides you, and they're not here anymore.
Correct.
And who's this?
This? I don't know, I just found her in the back. Actually, no, this is my wife, Elaine. So.
Nice. Okay.
Hi.
Like your new wife, Elaine? Like you just met and you guys got married backstage? And
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Awesome. You guys are witnessing history right now. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you to Kevin Brockmeyer for coming out and reading some of his stories. He's an amazing author. Yes. And thanks to Elaine for coming out and joining Cody and talk about cryptids across the Atlas. So that's what you guys do, right?
Yes.
That is pretty much what we do,
Okay.
yes. So
when you say cryptids, I had to ask what that was when we originally met over like a year ago. And I wasn't familiar with the term.
Yep.
And then we started talking about Bigfoot and the what do they call it? The something of...
which one? The Fog Monster?
the one that's like Bigfoot in the swamp.
Yeah, the Fog Monster.
Fog Monster,
Yeah,
that's it.
Then we'll go with
Yes.
that one.
Legend of Bogey Creek.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the movie I saw.
Yep.
The Legend of Bogey Creek.
Yes.
Or Boggy Creek.
Yeah, so for anyone who isn't familiar with what a cryptid is a creature that has not yet been scientifically proven. So things like Bigfoot come to mind. It can also be creatures in areas they're not supposed to be. So there's been numerous accounts of black panthers across Arkansas, but there are no documented actual panthers in Arkansas, black panthers specifically. So it can be both. It can be something like Bigfoot, or it can be a creature that is no longer existent, but someone cited. Another famous one like that would be the ivory-billed woodpecker, which was extinct until recently proven to not be extinct anymore. So that was actually a cryptid when people were claiming that it was cited, even though it was supposed to be extinct. But
The more fun version to talk about is things like the Chupacabra and the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and the Ozark Howler. So.
And then there's also animals that used to be cryptids as well. So like the okapi,
Yes.
the platypus.
Yes, there's a lot of animals that were considered cryptids that then were actually discovered and are no longer
So it kinda
cryptid
takes
anymore.
the fun out of it. So if a cryptid is, we understand what it is, it's no longer a cryptid and it's no longer fun anymore.
But that is the point.
Yes.
The point is to discover what may or may not exist.
It's like when sailors discovered that manatees weren't actually mermaids that were trying to get them.
We're not going to go down the route of the sailors and the manatees because it's not age appropriate. But also things like the kraken, and then we are finding giant squids, and they keep getting bigger somehow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then specifically Cryptids Across the Atlas is a show to teach people about these creatures, about folklore, and how it shapes history and culture. And so there is a lot of very interesting beliefs that we have, and then our beliefs in what may or may not be out there often bleed over into how we interpret the world. So, but it's a lot of fun. I love cryptids. I love monsters. I love what goes bump in the night. And I drug Elaine down the road because she loves Halloween, so it kind of worked.
Yeah,
right?
so I love all things spooky, and Halloween's my favorite holiday, and I was kind of new to cryptids whenever we first started dating.
Which was backstage.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Years
very
ago
recent.
backstage.
Yeah.
But whenever we started dating, he was like, my favorite cryptid is Mothman. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Which that's changed, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you were like, the Mothman Prophecies is my favorite movie, and I was like, what is this world? Like, I knew about Bigfoot because I feel like being in Arkansas, it's kind of on every hat, t-shirt, and everything like that. But I didn't really know what the world of cryptids was. But then a couple years ago, whenever we started the show, we were like, okay, we want to do something different because there are a lot of people, obviously, who don't know what cryptids are. And, of course, there are the typical ones like, Bigfoot and Chupacabra. But then there's a lot of cryptids that people have never heard of. Like the Side Rock Bolter is my favorite cryptid. And it's basically a whale that lives in the Rocky Mountains.
Yes.
Yes, that is an actual cryptid, but something that we've kind of started categorizing cryptids in 2 to 3 different categories. There's a level of cryptids that could not be real. There's not a whale that lives in the Rocky Mountains. That is just scientifically impossible. But then there are things like Bigfoot, or there are things like the Loch Ness Monster, where cryptids who live underwater, we don't know about things that live, in our oceans or lakes and rivers. There's so much unknown. And so those could potentially have, validity to them.
And I want to talk about the culture piece.
Yeah.
Just jump in, whatever. So the culture piece was something really interesting. So she talked about the Slide Rock Bolter. This was a tale, a whale of a tale, if you will, invented by lumberjacks in Colorado. So what happened is when the mines dried up, the gold mines dried up, they needed a new way of making money. So they turned to deforestation and basically logging the forests. Well, the activists came in and did not want people logging the forest, so they invented a tall tale of a giant whale that slides down the hill and eats you if you go up into these hills. So, and what happened? Well, everyone from the city who was trying to save the environment was scared and ran away, and they tore the hillsides apart. And then what happened? Landslides, which are a lot like a giant whale.
Consuming everything.
Yeah, so there's a lot to cryptids. And we love the scary. I sit on the fence on quite a few. There are many I just don't believe in at all. There are some that I absolutely do believe in. But the beauty of it is, no matter if it's real or not, it teaches us a lot about who we are as a people. And I mean, you go through any different subgroup of people. We talked about Arkansas history just this last time we were on the stage, before we went and investigated the noise. And there's so much, even just right here, that we don't even understand why we are the way we are, and why those little adages, those things we say that tie back to these old stories, and even more so how those people influence those stories by what they believe. So, and it changes over and over. It grows and grows and grows with every generation. So,
And you said well, I guess it's encrypted until it's documented, I guess, right?
Correct, yeah.
And you said that there has never been a documented Black Panther in Arkansas.
Correct.
So documented doesn't include when Jim Bob swears he saw one that night.
No, we have to have scientific, irrefutable facts. And even though I myself think I have seen a Black Panther in Arkansas, and her mother has straight up seen one too, and you ask around, a lot of people have seen Black Panthers in Arkansas. You know, I live out in Lone Oak. Everyone swore we didn't have alligators in Lone Oak until they found a 12-foot long one in someone's swimming pool right down the road. So, you know, creatures move and migrate, and that's just a real thing. I was in Tennessee, and they claim that there are no mountain lions in Tennessee. It is a cryptid for Tennessee, technically, yet we saw one on the side of the road.
Late at night.
And now Tennessee in the last year or so has come out and said, you know, actually we do think there are mountain lions here. Oh, really? It took thousands of people saying it till they started investigating it, but when they did, they started seeing it. Now you have the other side of that. You have things like the chupacabra. I love to use the chupacabra. If you don't know what that is, it means goat sucker. And what that is, yeah, yes. And so it is literally a vampiric creature that drinks goat's blood in Mexico. It was originally Puerto Rico, right? Puerto Rico.
But there are sightings in Mexico.
Yes, Texas, anywhere there's desert. So the first sighting was by a woman who had just so happened to recently see a movie called Species, which has a very creepy monster in it that kind of looks a lot like a chupacabra. And so what's a chupacabra? Well, if you've ever seen a picture of one and like what people describe it to be, and then you see a mangy dog, it's really similar, you know? So there's a good chance that chupacabras are mangy dogs, but they've also found specimens of a dog in Texas that was a coyote that crossbred with, I believe it was a German Shepherd. And so it was a new species of dog, basically, and it was hairless. It was just like blue skin. You can find pictures of it online. And in a way, this thing was hunting down people's livestock. So is that a chupacabra? Well, sure. It sounds really creepy, but once you figure out what it is, you can put a name to it, and then it's not so creepy anymore. So there's both sides. You have the folklore side, and then you have the tangible side. And then you have the paranormal side, but we're not going to go there because I don't believe Bigfoot came down in a UFO. And Elvis isn't there either.
I was going to say, you also have the hyper-sensationalism, kind of like that, where people just have these just elaborate stories that you're like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, alternate universes and everything. Like, where did this even come from?
It gets weird quick in our neck of the woods, so...
Interesting. So lots of stuff to read on the internet is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, lots of fun stuff to read on the internet. So
I wanted to sort of do a quiz for you guys.
Okay.
Everybody loves quizzes, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Everybody loves it. So your cryptids across the Atlas. Yes. So first of all, can you name your 7 continents of the world?
7 continents of the world?
Continents of the world.
Okay. North America, South America, Asia, Antarctica, Africa, Europe, and Australia.
Man, you got it. You nailed it. Awesome.
Right,
so
sweet.
you know it a lot better than we thought. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name one of the continents and tell me a cryptid that you know from that continent.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's start with Asia.
Asia.
Go for it.
I was going to say we have a couple that we've done. We have...
The Pangolin is Asian. So okay, let's just talk about Asian culture for a minute. Asian culture cryptids are traditionally much more ghost-like. Mm-hmm. They believe in, so there is also, slipping my name, yokai is a very common thing. So you have objects hold a lot of sentimental value. And so a lot of times there's a spiritual endowment put on objects, and they are viewed so far as to like believe that if you neglect an object, even like a shovel where you don't keep it maintained, that it will come alive and haunt you. And so there is a story of a lute, which is a type of stringed instrument that cries itself by playing itself at night and cries when it's not played. So the Pangolin specifically, though, talking of ghosts, is a disembodied witch that floats and chases down men.
That was caught on camera, by the way.
Was caught on camera, supposedly. So that would be the one I would go to, is it is literally just a head with what he don't got, and all the rest of them, and it floats by and chases men that wrong women. So that would be...
Actually, our most recent episode I just did on the Umibo Zoo, and it's basically this water spirit cryptid that lives out in the ocean. And it loves a game of wit, so if you can outwit it, it can save your life. So
Yeah. Africa.
the crowing crested cobra,
Oh my gosh, you pulled that off the top of your head.
which is basically a snake with the head of a rooster that lives in trees.
I would also like to point out that I have had multiple people from Africa message us after that, swearing that they have seen this and did not know what it was. Multiple people. It's wild.
Cries like a rooster.
It has like a rooster. But I mean, if you think about it, spitting cobra also has the cowl. So, I mean, to have a red cowl isn't that far-fetched. There probably could be a snake out there that just, you know, interesting thing about cryptids real quick. A lot of times you think of a story, right? And it's something really exaggerated. But because when we're in the moment, we hyper-sensationalize things. We do this with everything around us. So it could be a snake that is a type of cobra that has a red cowl. But over time, the assimilation is it's a rooster. So it's a crowing crested cobra. And I don't know what they, like how that would sounded. Yeah, but anyway. Carry on. Next.
I feel like this is going to be an easy one. Europe.
European, so there's an interesting thing about Europe. Bigfoot sightings are new in Europe. That is a phenomenon that has taken off since the rise of media around Bigfoot in North America. There's not a traditional Bigfoot sighting, much so. There's wild men type stories, but not a whole lot. What Europe has a lot of is it's the birth of werewolves. And so a lot of our werewolf lore, like for instance in New Orleans, we have the rougarou, or in France it would be called the loup-garou, which is just translating to werewolf. It is the story of specifically people of the Catholic faith who do not attend service properly and then do not I'm not very familiar with Catholic lore. I'm sorry, but anyway, basically they don't follow.
I didn't ask.
Anyway, there's a thing. Not Mass. What is it? Whenever you give up Lent. There we go. If they do not participate in Lent properly, and they do not repent of their sins to a priest, they will be attacked by a rougarou, and it will turn them into one. So there's also a lot of weird religious stuff.
I was going to say what's also interesting about werewolves is, so you have the Salem witch trials. Well, France had the French werewolf trials.
Yes, where very similar.
For being werewolves.
Yes, and then another European cryptid, specifically from England. So yeah, it's an island, but still, is Spring Hill Jack, which in the 1600s was this man dressed up very similar to how we imagine Batman of modern time, who would jump from building to building, snatching purses, cackling like a witch, and punching men in the face. And he is deemed a cryptid because of his unnatural way that he leapt down and attacked random patrol officers in the middle of the night. I think this dude's pretty cool, you know, but don't know if he's a cryptid. They call him a cryptid. I guess that's a way of saving their skin. So,
Australia has to have a funny one, right?
Oh, man.
Seems like that would be an interesting.
Okay, other than kangaroo was a cryptid at one time.
What is the name? The Yaramayahu.
Thank you, Yaramayahu. So the Yaramayahu, which I always wonder, the Yaramayahu, and you say, anyway, it's this red frog that's about 3 foot tall that lives in trees.
Eats children.
And if children get lost in the woods, it eats them.
Okay.
And if you get bit by one, you too will turn into a Yaramayahu. So leave it to Australia because they don't have enough real stuff to fear. They make up the most terrifying crap on
They
Earth.
have large spiders, they have large frogs, there you go.
Yeah, so.
If you get bit by one, you become
If it
one?
bites you, yes, apparently they
But
bite.
if it eats you, you're just eating.
Well, it eats children, but if it bites adults. So adults are too big. They're only like this tall.
The story behind it is to teach children not to wander off into the woods.
Gotcha.
So behind every
Think Hansel and Gretel.
But yeah, but something that we have learned is that behind every cryptid there is a life lesson behind it.
Okay.
Typically.
Typically. Yes.
Typically.
Yes, for the most part.
Yes.
For sure. how do people keep up with you and listen to your show?
Yes. So Cryptids Across the Atlas is the name of our show. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, all the different social media networks, Reddit even. TheCryptidAtlas.com is our website. Or if you walk around anywhere, there are these pamphlets scattered about that are like these little travel brochures. It has all of our contact info on it. We are a completely narrative show. So if you enjoy very scripted and like you love information and you want to kind of follow a journey, it's not two people kind of shooting the breeze.
We swap off every other.
We alternate. So 1 week it's me, 1 week it's Elaine. Sometimes we tag team it on occasion. We also have a bunch of other stuff coming out. So we have a series on Dover. So if anyone's ever been to Dover, Arkansas, or heard of the Dover Light, we're doing an investigative series. Part 1 is out of that. And Ty, you're already a little privy to this knowledge, but we are working on a 6-part documentary series on Dover, Arkansas, investigating the light phenomena there and understanding just kind of all of that. And we have some other shows coming down the pipe too, but it's thecryptidatlas.com or find one of these pamphlets. So
awesome. Thank you guys. You can give Elaine a hand.
Yes. Thank you. And I guess this
congratulations on your marriage, by the way.
Yes.
That's why we came here, set this all up.
The reception will be after this.
We're matchmakers. And tonight, finally we wanted to bring out a guest who are local. And they know local because they know lots of stories around here, but lots of ghosts and hauntings and stuff. They are the Haunted Arkansas Ghost Tours. And we're going to bring them out right now. This is me stretching this out so they have time to walk to the stage. Ooh.
What's everyone's favorite prop?
Did that work?
There we go.
Did that work for everyone? Okay. Hi, Amy.
Amy, Jessica, welcome to the stage. Pick a chair, any chair of the two.
Pick a chair that you would like. I like the attire, by the way.
Yes.
It seems like you're haunting somewhere.
I got lost in
Ah.
Well, that happened. Okay, sorry about that. I got lost in the curtains.
Lost in the curtains. Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Those curtains are really
look at
easy
that
to get lost
cameraman.
in.
He's scary. Okay.
Yeah. They're heavy curtains. I agree.
So.
Lots of folds.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the stage.
Yes, thank you for joining us. I have personally known both of these lovely women for, going on, I don't even want to know how long it's been now. I was like...
About 15. Probably 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a very long, a very, very good stint of time. And I'm very excited to share the stage with both of you because I have personally taken this tour, and it was one of the tours that really got me into ghost tours, but also just all the times I've got to sit down and hear the wonderful history that you both share. And also, I've been to many ghost tours now, and yours still tops my list.
Oh, my.
And of course, I'll let you get into this. For an area that I did not expect, right? Argenta is not an area that I think of when I think of Arkansas history, but man, I have been to probably just about every tour across Arkansas at this point, and yours is still by far the best.
Aww.
So.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay.
So tell me about your tour. I want to hear all about your tours.
Yeah.
I want to hear, how did you get into being Arkansas Amy? Like, tell me the story.
Well, first off, I'm Amy Jones, and this is Jessica Hammond, and she is my daughter.
Is she Arkansas Jessica, or?
Well,
Let's not go that far.
You're not adopting that name? Okay.
Let's let her be Arkansas.
We can give you a name tonight.
Be your tour guide.
yes,
Nice.
she's our
Okay.
tour guide this year. She's in training, and she's doing a really good job. She tends to be a little more theatrical than I do. I tend to be a little more college professorish, But it's always great because we get different crowds, and so you get different people asking different questions, so you never quite know where you're going to go. I do tend to sometimes go way far out of Argenta as far as historical facts or something, or somebody will ask me something. But now, okay, we used to be Argenta Haunted Tours 6 years ago when my business partner, Paul Prater, who is kind of a minor celebrity in his own right, he is does magic and does magic shows all over the world, really, and teaches magic. And but his magic is a little bit different. It's a little macabre, a little bit creepy magic. So anyway, he was doing that, but he had also written a ghost tour for another town that he lived in. And he's a lawyer, so he can write and research very well, but he wasn't an actual historian. So the story goes, when he came to North Little Rock, he said, well, there's nothing here. There's no entertainment of this kind. So he actually went to the North Little Rock History Commission and said, hey, I want to do this 6 years ago. help me do this. And so they got him some stories. So he started, and I am, single empty nester. I run around the town and the whole state by myself and do all kinds of weird things. But so I had a hobby of going to different ghost tours all over. And sometimes people would ask me to help research a little bit. I did a little bit in Heber Springs, and I've done some other towns with research. So I like to take these ghost tours and see what they're saying. But a lot of times I go, that's not true. You shouldn't say that. I'm busting them, because you can't make up this stuff. I mean, truth is stranger than fiction. We have newspapers, we have accounts of what happened. There's no reason to make up stuff just to sell a tour ticket, okay? So anyway, that was my hobby. So one night, 4 years ago, I just took Argenta Haunted Tour by my little self, not with friends or nothing, and I tried not to say nothing, and he was going through his whole spiel, and he did really well. I mean, he did really historically correct real well. And so we're going about halfway through it, and this other lady comes up to me and she goes, I don't know who you are, but you know something. And I'm like, yeah, I was trying not to say anything. I didn't know any of these people. So by the end of it, he said to me, you look like you might know more than I do. And I'm like, well, and so I kind of told him that I really came to bust him. And because I don't like people who make up stories. We ain't got to make up no story. And so so him and I got to be really good friends, and I helped him do some research on some other things. So anyway, by the next year, the tour season, because it's usually about mid-August through maybe the first week in November. And so the next tour season, I said, hey, I'll help you, because like I said, he's very busy. I said, let me do a few nights. And so that's when I started. So it was about 4 years ago when I started. And now I pretty much do the Argenta walking tours myself, and then she's helping me too. I'm going to train her where I don't have to do it every single night either. But he has came in and he takes over a thing we call Booze and Brews. Booze and Brews is also another tour that's in Argenta, but what it is, you start out walking with him or our other business partner, either one of the guys, and they tell you a few stories, but they stop at 3 different bars down in Argenta, at Crush, at Four Quarters, and at Reno, sometimes just different ones. And so they go in and they do a little magic kind of cryptic kind of thing. And so they do more of a show. And that's fine. When I'm doing my tour, I have a book that has pictures, and I tell the stories of those pictures and that sort of thing. But like I said, I'm not into making up stuff. Now, I will tell you this. I ask everybody like where they're from when we start. And if somebody goes, oh, I'm staying over here in the Little Rock Convention Center, I'm staying over here. And I'm like, where are you from? They're like, oh, I'm from Michigan or something. I'm like, oh, I'm going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you where the little green men landed over here. We're all aliens now. Because when you get somebody like that, I'm like, oh, I just want to tell you all kinds of stories. But people, I get a lot of people who live in Arkansas who grew up in this area, and I might say something and then they go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that makes sense, And so I do enjoy that, but I do always ask everybody where they're from to kind of get their perspective. And a lot of times during the tour, somebody will go, well, I'm from Russellville, or I'm from somewhere else in Little Rock or something. Do you know anything about that? And so that's how I get a little carried away. But Jessica's doing very good this year, following. But
basically, I'd go to the bars down there with my friends and end up talking about half the stories that I've heard for many years now. So why not join the crew?
It's not a bad job.
So of course, I don't want to dive in too much to Argenta, because that's your bread and butter, and honestly, just go take the tour. But do you have any stories from here around Little Rock or anything? What's some little things that people don't realize about right here?
Well, we were talking backstage about a lot of things people don't realize. And I guess I'll start. Let's start with, I do have a ghost story about Mount Holly. Does everybody know where Mount Holly Cemetery is? Okay. Mount Holly is one of the nicest, fanciest cemeteries in Arkansas. It's a lot of times referred to as the Westminster Abbey of Arkansas, okay? Because there's so many top celebrity kind of people that are buried there. Our first 11 governors are buried there. We have some colonels from the Civil War that are buried there. We have some senators that are buried there. Kind of the who's who of what downtown Little Rock was when we first became a state, okay? A lot of people there. You got your Chester Ashleys, you got Conways, Sevilles, all those names that we've all know. BBs are buried there. The Worthens from Worthen Banks are buried there. So some of these names that everyone knows. So if you've never been to Mount Holly, It is amazing. I kind of creep around in cemeteries by myself too. I do weird things. Anyway, I love cemeteries. Okay, my thought on cemeteries is they're like walking history museums.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're art museums, and they're floral arrangements, and they're these beautiful botanica gardens. And so, if you ever don't have anything to do, it's free. Go to a cemetery. Anyway, let me tell you about Mount Holly. So, a little bit of backstory. We have Robert Crittenden, who was first governor of Arkansas. He was actually the governor of the Arkansas Territory. Robert Crittenden, when we were first developing downtown Little Rock, on Broadway in Little Rock, there's the Albert Pike Hotel. Okay, he owned that little area, and it was actually kind of his family's cemetery, but he then started letting other people bury down. Now, we're talking before 1836, okay? That's how far back. So that was the only place to bury anybody for a while. Then Chester Ashley, who came down, and when Chester came to Little Rock, he bought up the first 25 blocks of Little Rock, so he owned everything. He's the one who donated the property for the old State House. He donated the property for Mount Holly. Well, before Mount Holly, he donated the property for the first public Little Rock burial ground, which is on Capitol underneath the federal building right now. Okay, so he had that. Now, this is pre-Civil War, so he had that area. But then it was about right before the Civil War, he donated, him and a man named Beebe, donated 4 acres to Mount Holly, which is off of Broadway in Little Rock, okay? So if you ever drive into Children's Hospital on the highway and you see that beautiful cemetery, that's Mount Holly. So anyway, they donated 4 city blocks. It's really not 4 city blocks anymore, but that's what it was. And the story goes, when it was, there's not really a good year, but when it was first being built, it had Arch Street. Arch Street is over there, and Arch Street actually ran through the cemetery at that time, okay? So cemetery was on both sides of Arch Street. And back then, the thing to do on a Sunday afternoon was to take your family and picnic at the graveyard, because it's a beautiful place. So there was a family named the Williams, and they were out there having a picnic at the graveyard. And so you have Arch Street in the middle of it. You got people walking up and down Arch Street. And many people on Arch Street saw a man riding a horse. And he was riding the horse down the street, and they recognized him. His name was Robert Kennedy, I believe. And they recognized him and knew him and kind of hollered out to him. They described that he was wearing a brown coat and a blue shirt and a cloth hat. When they called out to him, the man and the horse disappeared in front of everybody. So the Mr. Williams noted the time as 5:30 p.m. He went home that night, and like I said, they had known this person. Actually, the Robert had borrowed the horse from him. It was actually their horse, and their teenage daughter was all distraught, thinking something must have happened to him. But they found out the next day that yes, that he had been shot, and so had his horse. And so the Mr. Williams said, "What time?" And they said 5:30 p.m. Well, that was the time they saw him, and he disappeared. So that was one of the earliest Mount Holly ghost stories. However, when you go disturb people's graves, a lot of things can happen. Over 640 Confederate soldiers from the Civil War were dug up from Mount Holly and moved to the Soldiers Cemetery when it was first built. It wasn't, not Oakland, but the one down by Oakland. It was specifically made for soldiers. So they dug up 640 graves at Mount Holly and moved them there. So people say that has a lot to do with them still hearing drums being played or marching and that sort of thing people hear. They also said they've seen a lot of people walking around, women in Victorian dress, because that would have been a lot of what was buried there. But one interesting thing about Mount Holly, and I don't know how spooky this is, but it's interesting. When we first started downtown Little Rock, now you have 3rd and 4th and 5th Street. Well, those streets used to be named after trees, like maple and oak and that sort of thing. So when Chester Ashley was developing Mount Holly, they set it up in blocks just like downtown Little Rock. So if you lived on Oak Street in here and you died, you might want to be buried in Oak Street at Mount Holly. And if you go out there today, you can still see the street signs, and they still say Maple or Oak. And there's a little brochure that'll tell you exactly how to find somebody by the address of where they're at.
Wow.
So that's very interesting that they patterned it out of Little Rock, and now we don't even have that in Little Rock anymore. So that's very interesting. So anyway, I get off on a subject about cemeteries. I'm sorry, but anyway. But so that I do talk a lot about that. But like I said, when I downtown North Little Rock, I grew up in North Little Rock. I was actually born up by St. Louis, but got to Arkansas when I was 9 years old because of the railroad. If you know North Little Rock at all, it's a big railroad town, and that's how I got here. So when I'm telling the whole history of what's gone on there, people do ask me things like St. Joseph's Orphanage, which is the big orphanage over by Camp Robinson. They ask me about things that have happened at Camp Robinson and that sort of thing. So we say our tour is 90 minutes. Sometimes it can be 2 hours. You just never know how much I have to say or what somebody prompts me to ask. But it's fascinating. And there's a lot of accounts down in Argenta, just as there is in downtown Little Rock. There's a lot of bars and different things in downtown Little Rock that actually have things that move. People hear things. People see things. I'm not going to say things haven't happened to me while I've been down there, but I do kind of play it off as, well, I'm the ghost woman. I've been down here 4 years talking about. Of course, they're going to say hi. You know, so.
One of the things about the tour is that a lot of this stuff is backed up by the paper.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's been all kinds of different journalism over the years, and so to say, really, that was a quote from our mayor in the paper? It's quite surprising what has been said over time.
Yeah.
So history shows you some colorful things, and we just get to go over the fun stuff.
Love that.
Yes.
Amazing. Why stick by Argenta in particular? You know, I mean, obviously people can go take the tour, but like, why the area in particular?
Oh, well, like I said, Paul started there just because he'd moved to North Little Rock.
Yeah.
And then when he found out we used to be called Argenta, that's kind of fascinating. A lot of people don't know that it used to be called something else. And like I said, I grew up there. And Argenta is a really cool area because it was North Little Rock was classified as a small town. So I believe it was the first President Bush that gave out the 1,000 Points of Lights grants to downtown hometowns to redo your main street, okay? Well, Argenta got one of those grants about almost 30 years ago now. Wow. So before it got this grant to redo it to look out like it is now with the trolley and the beautiful flowers and all, you didn't ever go down there. That was scary and dangerous. You didn't go down there. I think we had a Sears and an AutoZone. That was about it. You didn't go down there. It was bad. But was it still as haunted? We still have stories that it was still as haunted. So it has grown up to now it's a touristy kind of place. And it's great from North Little Rock, but just as many little, if you see town squares in Arkansas, a lot of town squares got that funding, and they'll promote their town squares. So that's kind of how we got there. I have given tours in other places. I've gone and done specialized tours for groups, even like Little Paris, Arkansas. I love Paris, Arkansas. And they asked me one time to research and come, and I gave a tour around their town square. I've given tours around Bentonville Town Square. So, you know, a lot of people, our whole thing is we're not trying to get tourism to come to Arkansas. We're trying to tell Arkansans about where they live. Yeah. And that's, so I can't say we're a touristy kind of company. We're trying to educate the people that are just looking for something to do, and it's cheaper than a movie, you know. So that's kind of how we approach that one.
And we still have a little bit of time. We run through maybe the first weekend after Halloween.
At least the first weekend after Halloween. Maybe the first week in November. It just depends on how much requests we have. But
check our website for that.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I didn't even say that. Hello. But, well, we are Haunted Arkansas Tours, and you can find us on Facebook, and we do have a website, and that's where you can see a little bit of, I think there's even a video or something of the tours and different pictures. There's a phone number to contact us and email there. You can buy your tickets through that through that website. And like I said, we do private tours a lot of times. We only do seasonal tours right now because we all live in Arkansas, and in July you don't want to be wearing this walking down Argenta.
No.
You just don't. I'd be like a big lady passed out in the road. Yeah, it's hot. And so we have to really be careful with what we do and how we do it when it's not hot. But we've done private tours in the summer months too. So a lot of times we get companies, it's like a team building exercise, kind of stuff like that. I've done tours for conventions that come, and they don't know anything about Arkansas, and I've given private tours of that to them. So anyway,
really cool.
that's kind of what we do. We'd love to have anybody come see us, but like I said, you can check us out on Facebook and get the information, or you can go to our website. But it is.
If you have like some fun information, we're always in for new material.
We are.
If you were a part of the tour in years past, please come visit us again, because new things are always being researched. Right now, I know you're doing a lot of research on the railroad.
Yes.
And everybody's heard that random theory about tunnels under North Little Rock, but we
Wait,
don't like
what?
to know why.
What? Yeah. What?
Tell you all the secrets.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I have to take the tour.
When you read the newspapers, I read things in the newspapers, and you have to interpret the period of time these things were said. And so just as a little teaser, I was reading some of the newspapers, and it said the subway of Argenta, and I'm like, where is the subway? And then a lot of people ask me, is there a tunnel down Main Street? And I always say, I don't think so, but some people swear there is. So I'm sure next year's season's going to have all that covered. But we were the railroad hub, so there was railroad tracks everywhere. And so I will tell you one thing we found out as I've been trying to research people that died on these tracks, right? Well, if you can imagine, there's no electric lights. There's no, everything's gas lit, but you got these trains going all over these different tracks everywhere, right? So people got ran over. People got drunk, got hit on the railroad tracks. They were ran over. It happened very, very frequently. And so our first mayor of Argenta was Mayor Fawcett. Mayor Fawcett, if you look in North Little Rock, he's got his name on all kinds of things. We got 2 buildings on Main Street called the Fawcett Buildings. But he was the first mayor of Argenta. He got very offended one time at the Arkansas Gazette, and it was probably early 1900s. I can't remember the exact year, but he comes out in the Arkansas Gazette and says, I want to say what they said about us is not true. He said, the Arkansas Gazette said that North Little Rock is a death trap because of our railroads. And this is exactly what he said, you can't make this up. He said, I just want you to know that yes, people die on our railroad tracks in Argenta, but however, if you die on the railroad tracks, you were probably pushed by a friend or a family relative. Okay, well that makes it better, I guess. If your friend or your family pushes you on the track, then yes. But he was very offended that they called us a death trap. And so it's just very funny that if you read and you research that way, you got to remember there's no Facebook. Yeah. There's no other way to put your name out there. Right. So journalism was, you kind of had to read between the lines and who said what and how they said it. So anyway.
That's cool.
But we're having a good time. We start down at the gazebo. If anybody knows the gazebo in North Little Rock, we start down there. We tell all about the 2 bridges, the Main Street Bridge and the Broadway Bridge, because those were the actual places where the ferry used to go way back. And so we talk about that. We talk about different death and mayhem down there. And then we walk towards City Hall on Main Street, and we talk about several different places as we're walking down Main Street. And we go past the old post office, which is now the library. We talk about it. We talk about Owen's Funeral Home and the whole Owens family and all their stuff that they contributed to North Little Rock. And then we come back and end our tour at Four Quarters Bar, which is the most haunted bar in Argenta. And then we even show a video, so you know.
Yeah, the stories there are wild.
Yeah.
It's great though, because the stories reach into North Little Rock. So if you have lived here any short amount of time or even your whole life, then you know things like the orphanage we have near the base. There's things that flow into our stories, so we might not be in other parts of North Little Rock, but you're still learning stuff about that. Stuff we have going on in Sherwood that date back for the reasons why we have things in Argenta, like all that kind of stuff weaves together. So far, I've loved seeing people go, oh, that's why it looks like that, or oh, I heard that one time from my grandpa, and it just kind of put two and two together, or when you get that one person that was like, I was there for that, or, you know, something strange. So it's really fun to see people interacting with the tour, like questions and their own little tidbits or stories that just add to the experience of everybody on that specific tour.
Love that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for being here, and really honored that you guys came and spent the night with us. So this could be a very, busy time for you guys to be giving these ghost tours. And if somebody wants to take one of these tours, you said that it was, I'm trying to get what was the website address?
Haunted Arkansas Tours.
Haunted Arkansas Tours. Is that a .com?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes. And what I remembered is HAT, Haunted Arkansas Tours.
Okay.
So we have a separate little logo that says HAT and has a little ghost. But that'll
Nice.
help you remember, because there's a lot of haunted different ones.
Yeah.
But Haunted Arkansas Tours, and we put the Arkansas because we do research and do tours in other parts of Arkansas.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you
Well,
guys
thank
for
you so
having
much.
us.
Thank you so much.
Guys. Yeah, for sure. And that's our recording. Thank you guys so much for sticking around through the entire show. We were so grateful that you were here. I do have to say that this podcast is brought to you by our sponsors this year, which is Riverside, Mopod, American Business Engine. What is your guys' company where you do podcasts?
Oh, yes. Reckless Media. So you can find us at recklessmedia.co. Yeah.
Thank you so much to Cody for co-hosting this episode with me for this special Halloween episode. You can catch us on the Road to ARKAST podcast, and there are flyers out in the lobby with QR codes if you want to find that podcast and keep up with it. This episode will be released on October 31st as our special Halloween episode. And thank you so much to all our incredible guests, starting with Jason over here, who drove all the way down from Northwest Arkansas just to spend the evening with us. Thank you guys so much, and have a safe night and Halloween.
Thank you all.